This is your last chance. After this, there's no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends here. Shut the fuck up and wait 30 seconds and the show will begin. You take the red pill, you play at Alpha Draft, and I show you how deep the Skrilla hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering you is a paid advertisement, nothing more. Right, that's the start of the show. So this is Sony Insight, now episode 62. And well, look what we've got here, Monty. The old gang is back together again. The Three Musketeers, the Three Stooges, Charlie's Angels, the Three Tenors, Jory, George, Kramer, Ron, DMC, Jam Master J, Alvin, Simon, Theodore, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it's all come full circle, Monty. The prodigal son has returned. How do you feel right now, Monty?
I feel amazing. It's just good to have him back, conveniently right after exiting TSM.
I know.
Because, I remember the times when Locodoco was forced by TSM to apologize for the things that he said on this show. That was a great time on Twitter, just like leaving it out there. But, he's back. He's been freed. The TSM chains have been broken from his wrist. And now he's here once again.
Okay.
Loco, how do you feel?
I feel good. I was never chained by TSM.
Okay.
I wasn't. You can say whatever you want, but I wasn't chained by TSM.
I see how it is. So this is like that scene in Return of the Jedi where he's like, "I've got to save you, Loco." And you're like, "You already did. You already." So it's okay now. Everything's okay now, boys. We're all a happy family again. There's no resentment, there's no veiled sort of anger or disappointment over the way the years have gone. All that matters is we're all back together again. After episode 10, we've only had like 51 episodes, but Loco's back, Monty. So let's start the episode.
I mean, shouldn't we talk about like what happened between us? Like why we're chill now?
Sure. Listen, mate, I love that shit. I was trying to be like a politician here, let things go. So you tell me then.
Because people are gonna think like, what the fuck happened? Like they were good friends, and then they hated each other, and then they're good friends again. Like,
I mean, you say people are gonna say what the fuck happened. I think most people are gonna say, didn't Loco go and join that like team that hates Sony Insight and is biased against Sony Insight, but says something that's biased against them? And then when he joined them, didn't he like betray all his friends and just become like a corporate drone who like had no soul left? That's what I think. I'm not the one saying that. That's what people say.
I don't. That's not true at all.
Okay.
From my point of view, when I joined TSM, me and Monty were still friends, and then something happened between me and Monty where there was misunderstanding and mistakes from both sides where it damaged our friendship. And after that, I just felt like me and Monty weren't friends anymore, so I cut the ties. That's what happened from my point of view. And then after I left TSM, me and Monty talked it out. We talked about what happened. We both apologized for our actions, but it wasn't me like, oh, I joined TSM, now I'm going to hate Summoning Insight. I was never forced by TSM to like hate Summoning Insight or hate Monty or Thorin. Something happened between me and Monty. It's pretty personal, so I wouldn't go over it, but there were mistakes from both sides, and we both apologized. That's my point of view. What about you, Monty?
So mistakes were made, Monty. What's your thoughts on this?
I mean, I don't make mistakes, but yeah.
See, that's the part I didn't understand. See, Loco, what confused me was I understood the first part where you're like, listen, mistakes were made on both sides. We talked it out, and I thought you were just going to leave it there. But then you were like, and when we both just apologized for things we've done wrong, I was like, yeah, see, that's the part that doesn't follow. Like, I'm not buying that part.
Yeah, that's because you were incapable as a human being. You were incapable as a human being, Thorin, of apologizing for anything. So you can't actually understand contrition. You don't have that emotion wired into you.
It's also because it's never been convenient for me to apologize, and in many ways, I think I can summarize both of your relationship right now. It was convenient to apologize. There we go. He's done it. Hey, he's wrapped it all in a nice neat bow.
I want to defend that because even when it wasn't convenient for me, I did reach out and I did try to apologize, and it just never happened.
See, I don't like to focus on the negative, Loco. I don't think that's any way to live life. I'm not pessimistic. I like to focus on the positive. And let's face it, we had some great times on Twitter, didn't we? All of us going backwards and forwards, making little comments.
Hella fun when we fucking won SummerSlam and shitting on you. I had some great times. I had some not so great times, but I had great times.
MSI, yeah. You mainly talking about MSI there, right?
Oh, well, I just stayed off the internet.
Okay.
So I didn't actually get to enjoy the post-MSI Twitter shitstorm.
And also, obviously, we've got IEM San Jose coming up, so it's the anniversary of that event, Loco. You remember that one? Okay. Fair enough. But there was some good times. You won IEM World Championship in Katowice. I'm told it's a very nice place. And then there was the NALCS titles you won. Yeah. And if anything, Loco, listen, people have often misrepresented me by saying that I said you were a shit coach. Actually, if people go back and look, I've never said that. I said you had problems as a coach. But I'll tell you what, I'll give you a lot of credit, Loco. You actually managed to win NALCS with Santorin as a jungler. So I think you deserve a medal, mate. That's very impressive.
I mean, okay, the point of this, I feel like the theme of this show is going to be you guys shitting on various TSM members or TSM.
Isn't that the theme of every show? I'm informed.
Apparently, and then me defending them, I mean, if we're going to start with Thorin, let's start with Thorin. I think Thorin's a great person. I think, he does stuff that I would never do, and, I've been trying to do for years. Going to the gym every day, waking up early, keeping a very strict lifestyle schedule, and his dedication to the game and amount of solo queue he plays, I think it's pretty amazing. I do think he was somewhat close-minded, but I feel like it was coaching staff's fault that we couldn't change Thorin's mindset and show him how we want the jungle to be played, show him what we want to prioritize. I honestly think with players that young, sure they'll be immature and they'll be really strong-headed, but ultimately they're talented, they're mechanically talented, and that's what you expect from players. And it's up to coaching staff to show the leadership and to be able to change the players. And I wasn't able to do that.
So I've got a controversial question here. You opened this whole can of Loco. I just planned to do a normal episode where we talk about all the topical things.
You plan to do a normal episode.
Yeah. And we were just going to incidentally mention the fact you're on TSM.
This is could you fucking mention Star Wars? This is when fucking, is it, Anakin and Obi-Wan walk into Dooku's ship and they're like, this is a trap. What's the next step? Spring the trap. And I know what's fucking coming and I'm springing the trap.
Okay. See, that's the sad thing, Monty. That really does show what this show's about. My reference, classic trilogy. Loco's reference, prequels. So, okay, I'm just going to put that out there.
What's great about that, Thor? I actually have no idea what the reference he made just was.
I vaguely remember it. It was something in those movies that I called computerized.
I just deleted. I just hit myself in the head after I watched those movies until I forgot which character Dooku was and what his ship looked like.
Okay. Well, the reference point would be you forgot what Dooku's ship looked like, much like Loco forgot what the champion pool of Power of Evil was and thought, just leave Syndrop. He doesn't even play that, right?
Oh, God.
So,
But, I'm ready to defend myself.
Okay.
I came here fully armed. I knew what was gonna happen. See? I didn't walk in here thinking oh, it's gonna be a nice tea party with my good old friends. I knew it was gonna be a fucking holy shit. I better wear bulletproof vest. I better bring all the fucking guns. I'm here.
No, I know that. I know that's what you thought, Volker. You came here. Fuck, I've just realised I haven't actually got the correct names on the overlay. Oh, well, that's embarrassing. Well, whatever. Nothing I can do about it. I'll have to put the text on. Keep talking while I put the text on.
I want to make sure my text says Lord Locodoco.
That's over, mate. That was only 1 year. I gave you a year of that shit, mate.
Okay.
See, the worst part of that Locodoco was that you didn't come on as a guest during that period, so you couldn't have us call you Lord Loco.
We would have had to call you a whole episode long.
Yeah, we would have had to call you it for 3 hours.
I know you guys are gonna make another Lord bet with me. I can already see it coming. I'm ready to be called Lord again.
I don't know if we've got anything right now. We'll have to think of something for later on.
All right.
Keep talking while I'm getting this fixed.
So let's talk about you and Team Liquid. So what's your new job? Are you what's going on over there? Are you a translator as well? Are you responsible for Piglet? Are you Piglet's babysitter now?
I do translate time to time, but it's not my primary job. And in the end, if I'm not available for translation because of my content stuff, then I'm not available for translation. It's more of a side benefit than an actual title.
That's
I
just
make
a way that
content.
they avoid paying you extra money.
Yeah.
Can I just check in there?
To be honest, like I just started doing content creation, so I can't be like, this is what I'm worth in terms of content creation. I do think I'll be a good content creator, and I do think the stuff I have out and the stuff that's gonna come, like stuff that is coming, is gonna be really good. But I can't really like be like, I'm gonna be good. Just trust me on it. You know, I have to work from the
Are
bottom.
you gonna have a Loco Legends show?
Loco Legends? No, I'm not gonna have a Loco Legends show. I'm not big enough to have a personal documentary yet.
Can we have a personal documentary about you making content where you like sit there and talk to a camera?
Sure. I mean, get me sponsored.
That's your job. Get him sponsors, Monty. Now that he's left the old TSM, he needs some sponsors, boys.
All right, let's talk League. That's what I'm here to talk about.
Okay.
So what have you got?
Right, well, first things first, the last show was before the semi-finals of Worlds. So we don't have to do the semi-finals, but we should at least comment on the final of Worlds, since it was an all-Korean matchup. So while I'm fixing this overlay, tell me what you thought of the final of Worlds, Loco. Like, did you think that Ku could even win a game?
I thought they'd be able to win one. And I also thought there's a chance it becomes close, depending on like how good Smep plays. And Hojin, Hojin and Smep would have had to have really good synergy, and Hojin would have to have the right champions and be able to perform on those champions, and he wasn't. So I thought SKT would win, and I thought there was a slight chance that Ku might make it close if those two players were really, really on point, but they weren't. So it wasn't that close.
And what was your actual prediction on the broadcast, Monty? Did you say that it would be 3-0?
I thought it was going to be 3-1. Most people thought it was going to be 3-0, but I thought that Smeb was playing well enough at the World Championship that I thought he'd go off like one game and then be able to pick up a game. And also, it's just the Ku Tigers had certain strategies where they really knew how to snowball with like Ash Engage and stuff like that, and having a lot of hard CC and playing around the map with Tom Kench. So I figured they'd get one, and they did. So, but obviously, when SKT played in that last game, it was a thorough domination. I think they just got themselves back on track and played a much cleaner game in Game 4. And then Faker had that incredible Rise game, and that was pretty much it.
So since everyone's, like the obvious only real chance we would have saw going in, as he referenced, was like Smeb was playing super well and he'd already like beaten Someday, for example. What did you actually think of the way Ku used him? Was there any way they could have done it differently?
Ku didn't play that well, that's the thing. I thought their 2v1s, the first game Ku actually got ahead in 2v1, but whatever they did, like in the first 10 minutes, they would be ahead a lot of the time. But SKT is really good at backing up, and it's called preemptive shot calling, where you predict what's going to happen. You predict, okay, his teleport's down, both our teleports down, my teleport's coming up a minute faster. All right, let's make bottom gankable. Let's push it up. Let's make sure our jungle pathing is good for us roaming bottom. Let's make sure mid is pushed up, and then we're going to make this play in 2 minutes. And then SKT makes that kind of shot calling, and they do that consistently. So they're always at places first. They have more people, and it wouldn't matter if they're behind you. If you have more people there, if the waves are favorable, if you're teleporting, it doesn't matter if you're 1k, 2k behind. If your top laner is going to be out of fight and their top laner isn't. If your mid laner is able to roam and their mid laner isn't, you just win. And that's what happened. They would get behind early, but they would make coordinated team plays that would work out and like just demolish Ku. Like Ku was up ahead 2 kills in one of the games I watched, and then SKT had a 5-minute bottom play and they killed 3 people and took the turret, and they're able to snowball really well. So yeah, SKT shot calling and team play was way too good. If their team play and shot calling is pretty even, then whoever gets early leaves is just able to snowball consistently and win. But it didn't matter that much who was ahead early. SKT's mid game was way better than Ku's.
So Monty, people said coming into the final that actually Marin had been the best player on SKT, or I would just say the most effective player in terms of like the way they used him in the team. What did you actually think in the final?
I thought Marin did quite well in the final overall. I mean, interestingly, he played a bunch of Rumble games, which is something that we hadn't really seen in the tournament up to that point. And he played Rumble up until they lost that game 3, and then he switched over to the Gnar and had a pretty solid performance after that. I think he's a good player. He doesn't have the same champion pool depth that I think Smeb has, but he's versatile enough, especially with the rest of his teammates, that he can fit into the meta, which is nice. Obviously, we're not going to see big Riven plays out of him or anything, which is something fun that you can see with players like Smeb or with Someday. But he knows what he's good at. He stuck to it here, even though Rumble was not a very big priority pick at Worlds at all. He's still a great Rumble player. He made it work, especially that first game where he just went nuts on everybody on the Rumble pick. And he mostly, held Smeb in check, which was impressive. Was
he the MVP of Worlds?
I think I voted for him as the MVP of Worlds. Partially, that was just the meta, and the fact that Faker didn't really have to do much most of the time. They were just using that Ryze and trying to scale with the Ryze in a lot of games, but many times Marin would kind of win them the game, or the rest of the team would win the game before the Ryze really did much of anything. And otherwise, Faker played, like Lulu, Olaf. He didn't actually play that many different champions over the course of the World Championship. It's not saying he was bad, but I think Marin was... The meta was in a place to make Marin look really good. So, that's what happened.
Was he the MVP, Loco?
Can I ask a question first to Monty?
Sure, go ahead.
Do you think SKT would have won with EasyHoon?
Yes, I do.
I think the
EasyHoon was playing. I think it would have been harder, but EasyHoon was playing most of the same champions in solo queue. Like, he could definitely play Ryze too, and he's always been a pretty good Ryze player. So if that was going to be their strategy, Azir, Ryze, play around that, and Lulu, like, EasyHoon can play these champions, so I wouldn't have worried so much about that.
SKT's standard way of snowballing their leads was get slightly ahead in both mid and top, or if you're slightly behind in a lane, have Bengi come and help you, and they would make multiple 3-man dives top with their mid, their top, and the jungle, and that's how they crushed like Marin versus Smeb, or make a 5-man play bottom with everyone teleporting in with double teleport and the jungler being there. I honestly didn't think they needed like Faker to win that. Whoever's making the calls, which is probably Marin if they're making top plays constantly, and if they're making double teleport plays bottom, it's probably Marin. So I think Marin was the MVP and the most crucial part of SKT. Because if he's able to make those calls, I mean, that's what's winning them the game. Like, Faker getting slight leads in lane doesn't actually matter at all. If it was EasyHoon and I didn't think EasyHoon would lose to Kuro. EasyHoon's really good in control mage matchups, control mage versus control mage, and he's very good at min-maxing and where he can get leads on control mage matchups. So he would have been fine there. But even if the mid was losing, long as they have enough pressure where Bengi can help mid and they can move, they would have still been able to win the same kind of way. So yeah, I think Marin's MVP by far. Being able to make those calls, being able to make those plays early mid-game is like a cornerstone of SKT gameplay. What
do you think of that rumor that was recently published that perhaps EasyHoon is being targeted by Incredible Miracle?
Oh yeah, IM now has money because of the Chinese backing, so like they're able to buy out.
What would you think if they were able to buy someone like EasyHoon? Like, do you think it would impact SKT if they had to play Faker all the time?
Here's the thing: I don't think that IM needs to replace Frozen. Like, Frozen's a good player. If you're looking at the Incredible Miracle roster as of last season, I don't know that EasyHoon is enough of an upgrade. I would think they'd go after different players. If anything, the biggest, like, EasyHoon to KT might make more sense in a way. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in Korea.
In your dreams, at least, Monty. Yeah, we know that. So,
no, my dream is that Coco goes to KT. That's what I want.
Renegade. That's his dream. I'm not lying.
No, I want Coco. I want Coco to go to KT. That's what I want. In my perfect world, where KT gets Coco.
No, but maybe what happened was, the people from IM, because they've got all this money, they hired some people who speak English, and they were researching players on the internet, and they actually were researching EasyHoon, and they saw an article on LoL Esports that said that EasyHoon was actually better than Faker, and he was the best mid laner in SKT. So they were like, wow, we can buy the best mid laner in SKT, so that's why they're going to buy them. And then actually the presentation they gave to the board of Chinese investors was like, in many ways, we are now experiencing the golden age of Incredible Miracle. That's how they actually sold it to them, Loco.
I see.
So here's a question for you.
I don't think EasyHoon was the best player in the world at MSI, but I do agree he was the best Azir in the world, and Azir was probably the most OP champion at the time. So, like, if in the perfect condition where EasyHoon was able to get Azir, and rest of the team is same, like Lee Ji-hoon was a better player than Faker in that scenario, and that scenario did come up very, very often. I don't agree.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say Lee Ji-hoon, like, in the context of MSI, Lee Ji-hoon was more useful than Faker. That's my opinion.
To be fair, Lee Ji-hoon was more useful than TSM at MSI. So anyway, so here's my question, Locodoco.
that was such a non sequitur.
An entire team. They were completely useless.
I'm fine with you taking shots, but like that was like a fucking dumbass shot. Like that wasn't even clever or witty. That was just like poking fun for no reason.
Well, okay, then let's real question then. What was the thinking behind putting Bjergsen on Urgot and Cho'Gath at MSI?
Urgot, I legitimately forget. I would have to go back, but Cho'Gath, I do remember. We had a lot of success using Cho'Gath as a LeBlanc counter in NA, and we thought it would work again. But teams in NA, they didn't have the jungle mid synergy that other world teams did, and something like LeBlanc Rek'Sai destroys. Like LeBlanc Rek'Sai was broken as a duo, because usually what you do versus LeBlanc as any kind of champion is you rush Abyssal or you rush an MR item like a Dean's, and then you're able to be like, okay, I can chill, like I'm not gonna get ganked or die. And usually the jungler is AP damage too. Like we played versus a lot of Seju, we played it versus a lot of Gragas in NA, so if you have an MR item versus a LeBlanc and their jungler is AP, then you're set. Like you're not gonna die as a mid laner and you outscale LeBlanc and you're in a good position, and that's what we were able to do with Cho'Gath consistently in NA. But we went to MSI, and these teams were incredibly good at playing Rek'Sai. They did different jungle pathings with Rek'Sai, and Rek'Sai wasn't played that much in NA at all. And Rek'Sai LeBlanc duo was able to destroy like the comps that we were able to beat other teams with. So we were like, okay, we can play scaling and we can play more defensive and passive, because playing aggro versus these champions when you have this setup will not work, and you won't be able to kill them and get ahead, and you'll get outscaled and lose in team fights. That was our belief going into MSI, and it just wasn't true compared to other teams.
So okay, I have a question along those lines then. So that all makes sense if you somehow had to do that. But like, why can't Bjergsen just play the carry champions? Why can't he play LeBlanc? Why can't he just play something like?
No, because we thought that way of playing was better. Because when we also tried the other sides before earlier in the season, and we didn't have success on it. So, and when other teams played the more defensive scaling side, we were like, oh, that's actually better. And we thought that was the better way to play the game. That's why we did it. It's not like Bjergsen wasn't capable. It's as a team, or mostly as head coach and with analysts, we decided playing scaling is better.
So I have a question for you again, a similar line about you being the head coach. So one of the things that I think you took offense with originally on Summoning Insight was when you were announced as the coach of TSM.
Yeah.
Monte, from what I remember, said like you had good game knowledge, you would be good for the team, but he said something along the lines of like he was skeptical about the fact you were young and you were inexperienced, and then you were going to have to be a leader, but you were quite young yourself. You were a similar age to the players in theory. Mm-hmm. In fact, you've noticed even since then, Monty's always said that line about he thinks coaches should be like 25 or older and have a degree. Like, I mean, he sets his own Team Liquid-esque requirements for what you have to be a head coach, apparently. But here's my question. I noticed in your AMA you did the other day, you actually essentially said that like at times you thought you weren't, I think you said that you thought you weren't mature enough, or you let the players down and you lost your authority and they lost respect in you or something along those lines. What, is there any connection between the two? Like, what do you think?
I mean, personally, like, cause Monty was my friend, and when he said that, like, I took it as offense, like, cause if my friend was doing a job that was, say, like, difficult, like, I would say it's gonna be difficult, but I believe in them to succeed. Okay. Even if I truly didn't believe it, like, I would say that, cause it kind of hurts, like, your friend saying, you know, he won't be good at this because of this and this and this. Okay. I would try to give good advice and be like, okay, you're really young, and like, it's likely you won't succeed, so make sure you keep a good head on your shoulders and don't forget why you're there, like maybe that kind of advice. I mean, I completely agree with it. I was immature, I wasn't a good role model, and ultimately, if you're immature and not a good role model, you're not a good head coach. But I disagree with the age limit. There's people my age that are incredibly mature. There's people that are older than me that are fucking immature. I don't think like age is a good guidance for it, but it shouldn't be like a set limit. There's gonna be exceptional cases of coaches being incredibly mature for their age, even if they're young.
I think I agree that there are outliers. The main thing is that when regardless of how old you are, being older usually just gives you more experience in terms of actual coaching, and that's something that you just oftentimes can't get when you're younger. That's just, you don't have the same opportunities to even be in those situations. So that's why, I mean, the whole thing about this coaching, the coaching shit with the age stuff that has started to pop up. I mean, TSM just put out that call for us to, they got that guy, they wanted somebody with years of coaching experience or whatever, and they got a guy who's kind of on the younger end, but seems like he has a lot of those qualifications. And, I find this particularly amusing because when CLG started this trend, when they got Chris after Skara left, I recommended. I had a lot of talks with CLG, and I recommended that they do those requirements. And I was the one who actually wrote the post, the job application for CLG's coach, and I worked a lot with CLG's management on that just to help them out. And there were a lot of good, and I saw a lot of those applications. There were a lot of good applications for that. So I think it's a good model, and it's not a slight against you. And I don't have the same kind of background that these people have either. And I think it's just best for the industry that they move in that direction away from me, as people like me as well, unless I went out and got some more education, coursework, and coaching. That's it. So it's an evolution of the model, right? We started out with no coaches even a year and a half ago, and then suddenly we had coaches who, like myself, who were not trained traditionally in coaching.
Good on camera, though.
Great on camera.
No one can deny that.
I'm not. I mean, yes, no one can deny that. Honestly, no one can. But I think that I did my best for what I could do in that particular situation. But I still don't have the same kind of background that Chris at CLG has, or this new guy at TSM has. Just different skills.
You a question, then?
Go ahead. You just did.
Oh God. For your own team, Renegade, isn't your head coach what is it, Hermit the Turtle? Like, isn't he pretty young?
Yeah. He's about 24, 25.
Looks a bit like you, actually, Loco.
I'm a lot cuter.
I wondered what it said subconsciously about Monty, that he'd hired this guy who looked a bit like Loco, but like still young, still like impressionable. What's going on here, Monty?
He lost his son and friend, and then he's trying to find some replacement.
See, it's sort of like that legend of Blackbeard, Monty. You have that one room in your house that when you bring your new wife there, you're like, listen, don't ever. I love you. You have the whole run of the house, but don't ever go into this one room. Like, but why not? And he goes, listen, I told you, just don't ever go in there. And if she ever goes in there, that's where all the dead ex-wives are, and then he has to kill her as well. So just don't ever go in there, Hermit the Turtle, or whatever your name is.
Back to the original question of why Renegade's coaching staff is very similar to like.
Wait a minute, his name is Hermes, and Loco just confused. He just took the name Wild Turtle and Hermit, the coach of Origin, combined them together in his mind, and that's who this guy is.
The turtle. That's what I remember reading on Twitter.
Hermes. Yeah, Hermes.
The
That's
turtle,
even worse, because I just know the alias Hermes like appealed to Monty. He's like, yes, Hellenistic, classical values.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And that guy probably didn't know anything about that. Whatever. So, okay, what was the question, Loco?
So, I mean, it seems like Renegade coaching staff is 6 months behind of like the industry standard. If you have someone that doesn't have previous like extensive coaching, I guess, education.
No, Loco, I'll stop you right there. Don't dare besmirch the record of this guy, because I was talking to him the other day, and he happened to inform me that he was like a key analyst for Team 8, and we all know what a fantastic team Team 8 was. I'd like to again emphasize he was responsible for everything in Team 8. Okay, continue.
So, I mean, my question is, like, if you believe the model is evolving, and I mean, it's evolving for a reason because it's better, right? Why is your own personal team like 6 months behind or like a year behind of what the model should be?
First off, we do have some aspect in terms of Hermes. I have a lot of faith in him. I have a lot of trust in him from working with him for months, and so I feel comfortable about where we are right now. Another aspect of it is that we are working with a sports psychologist as well, so that I feel like we have some of these pieces in place. And the final aspect is that Chris lives with the team. So I feel more comfortable because we have somebody who is significantly older around the players at all times. So these three factors, now, not to say that I won't go towards what we're talking about eventually, but for now, I think my perception is that things are fine. So
I have a question actually about the way that things run in Renegades. Like, is Chris as the coach, is he supposed to sort of come up with the plan and then relay it to the players and get their input? Or is he just there to like facilitate, meaningful and productive conversations?
What, Chris in the house? No, he doesn't have anything to do with the strategy. He's there to facilitate the personal relationships and make sure everything's under control.
So the analyst is involved with the strategy.
Hermes, our coach, is
okay.
and
the other way around
analyst.
then. The Hermes guy, does he have full authority over the players?
Yes. So the way that we structure the org, so I don't talk to the players directly about anything related to gameplay or strategy. What I do is I talk to Hermes and I have conversations with him, and then he chooses to implement these strategies, or we talk about his methods or what he's doing with the players and how he's going to solve certain problems. And so that's the way we operate, because the only way you can, in my opinion, the only way that you can tell if somebody's a good coach is if you invest full authority in them. That way, otherwise you can't evaluate their performance in any meaningful way. Plus, because I'm not there in the house with them, I don't want to fuck with anything and like cause problems or just suddenly descend upon the team and then just like vanish again for a while. It's just very disruptive.
I didn't say anything, Loco. I didn't say anything. I don't know what you were thinking during that whole segment. I wasn't saying anything, mate. I didn't. Your own mind did that.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh, he doesn't remember. That's right. He's deleted it from his memory. Do you remember?
Actually realized that there is a webcam on you right now, and I was watching your face the whole time.
You don't remember the summer split when you were like facilitating all those sick conversations? You were sort of like a drum circle leader, like a Burning Man or something. You were just there to keep the good vibes rolling, and then eventually the coach kept... Okay.
I'll tell you why I laughed. I laughed because Monty talking about ascending and descending away from the players. Like, yeah. I just got reminded of CLG. Like, I know you're making the reference to TSM and Andy stepping in, but that's why I laughed.
Oh, okay. Well, my bad. We were on different frequencies there, Loco, with what we thought was funny.
Okay.
So, okay. What did you actually think? Like, when Reggie came in to be the coach, I noticed there wasn't much more information about that. Like, it said he was going to be the coach, like, an emergency style for the playoffs, but was he also the coach at Worlds? What was the situation there? Like, what was the actual breakdown of that stuff?
I mean, he head coached it basically. He ran the team. He's like, okay, this is how practice should be. This is what we should focus on. Local parts, can you go do research on this? Can you go make sure this is prep? Can you make sure how do other teams do stuff around Drag and how do other teams do stuff around there? And can you do research for that? So, I mean, basically head coached.
By the way, that just reminded me, one of my favorite videos ever. While we all didn't like each other, in inverted commas, during that period of time, one of my favorite videos was that one where you guys were watching the group draw. Like, that gave me a lot of joy inside my heart, Loco.
It created a meme forever, too.
I thought the video
it's a great reaction shot.
It's a great reaction, isn't it?
I think it's an app reaction to what happened. Like,
sure. But that was pretty epic because you thought you were going into like what was it? You thought you were going into Group B, was it?
Yeah.
Oh
well. It was either Group B or Group C, but it would have been Group C and instead of EDG.
Oh,
so it would have been H2K, us, and a wildcard team. So it would have been a much weaker Group C than what it was at actual Worlds.
Since you're friends with him, how did you enjoy the performance of Lord Flame at Worlds? He won 66.7% of his games, Loco.
Cool. I mean,
okay. Yeah, that's 100% more than TSM, mate.
I mean, great for him. Like I thought he played pretty well. I honestly it didn't even feel like enemies because we saw each other a lot and like we texted each other a lot like during the stay at Paris, and I thought his play was pretty decent. Honestly, I didn't focus on it that much. We focused mainly on teams, and we were like, oh, if Flame plays, they'll play like this. If Acorn plays, it'll be like this. I honestly can't say, like, I can't have like a super detailed information of Flame's performance.
Listen, he didn't have much of an impact in that game against TSM. No need to worry about him, mate. He was just like a minor side character, ending Darius's career on a good note. Wow.
I do think like people were hella rude to Darius after he retired. Like, yes.
What are you on about? Everyone in the whole stadium was like crying, lighting a candle, like a light has gone out in the world. How will we survive in this new era? And then the Dalai Lama was like, people of the world, you must have courage in these dark times. Like, he's only a guy retiring. He's got mad thriller.
I agree with you on the fact like majority response was very positive, but there was people that were fucking shitting on Darius for playing bad at Worlds, and I was thinking, holy shit, this guy played for 4 years. He actually did a great job in those 4 years, and his ending in terms of performance was bad, but like we're celebrating his career over 4 years, not like his last week of performance. And
Well,
I
to
thought
be
it was
fair,
really narrow-minded.
Yeah.
his domestic career was solid, but he never really had a great international showing.
I've got to pull you up on that, Loco. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Like, the sentiment felt fucked up that people were sort of saying he was shit. But that's why I think you've got to separate the two things. Like, I think people who are... Like, I mean, I assume you're talking about fans. But in theory, if someone's looking at those games, I think they should look at the games in isolation. And he played bad in those games. I mean, that fucking Malphite game was a nightmare, mate.
If you're discussing what happened at Worlds and Darius' performance, you can be
Sure.
like, oh, Darius didn't play bad, Darius didn't perform up
Yeah.
to par, or he didn't do this and this and this. But there were comments about, why the fuck are people crying about Darius? Like, he's a shit player. Like, no, like, what the fuck?
Obviously
Darius?
that's out of bounds. But what I mean is, I would like
Absolutely.
to separate the two. Like, that's why I think it's unfortunate the way it happened. Like, here's the thing. Obviously, everything happened and he'd already announced it. I think ideally what should have happened is he should have not announced that he was going to retire then. Should have played the tournament so it could be like that. People could just make normal comments. Then, like, a week later, you officially retire, and then everyone can have, like, a separate incident where they're not just thinking about the last game. Then it would be a celebration of your career, you know. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, but that's just the way I think it would be an easier way to separate the two. Because it's true, a lot of people were. I mean, you have to be real, Loco. I've said this many times on this show before, but it's really how I think about esports. At one of my jobs, someone once showed me demographics of people who follow esports, particularly League of Legends, and it showed that most people, the majority, only started watching like a year to 6 months ago. So you have to realize, to them, they don't know that Darius was a good player, because that was, like, in theory, the worst part of his career. He was still a decent player, but he wasn't good. The difference was, if they knew 2 years ago, he used to be very good, like in 2012.
Yeah, Darius Vlad and Darius Jace was a core part of TSM's, like, multiple wins. And, I mean, if people don't know him from a year ago, 6 months ago, like, I don't expect them to do the research, but if there's a reason why, like, the whole stadium appreciated him, there was a reason why, like, Riot was very appreciative of him. And then people were like, why are they appreciative? And I was like, oh my god, if you don't know, then just keep your mouth shut.
I think that the interview that he did was you know, a nice end point for his esports career. I do think that the analyst desk acted like he died afterwards, and I thought that was really weird.
Okay.
And bad. But I mean, it sucks. You know, he's been so solid for so long, and been, you know, there's obviously something to him, because he was the only person on that team. All of his teammates changed over the course of his career, and he was the only thing up there. So he was very solid. I know Thorin has a great video about Darius too, about being the backbone of TSM, and, you know, he had a good career. He had a good run.
Yeah. You might like it, Loco. I'm lying in a bed as I do it.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like lounging erotically.
I'm literally lying back on a pillow.
Yes.
And the microphone's next to my face, so I'm just talking it. Because I was super tired after a day of, like, CSGO casting. It's good. I might start doing more themed videos like that, Monty. Like, just me in a towel.
Where's the bubble bath one is what I'm looking forward to.
I'll have to keep... Well, then again, Monty, did you ever see that interview I did with little Susie, where it started and we were in, like, a park, and then a man came along, like, excuse me, you can't film here. So we had to go inside, and then we were in a corridor. This is only like a 5-minute interview, Loco. Suddenly, the scene changes. We're in a corridor, like in Inception or something. We're talking there. Then literally 1 minute into talking there, a guy opens the door, and he's like, excuse me, we've got kids trying to sleep in here. So we're like, fucking hell. So then we switch, and we're just inside her hotel room, in, like, the corner, literally stood in the corner of the room so that no one can see all the mess that women make in hotel rooms. Like, shit just everywhere. And that's how the interview just ends. Like, it's only 5 minutes, it's like 3 scene changes or something.
Alright, I'll go check it out when I'm done with this.
It's good. I'll check out that triple L thing you got going on there, mate. Loco, let's loose.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, I gave you some free advertising there.
Thanks.
It's a brand new concept that Loco's pioneered, where what he does is, when topical things happen, he makes a video with him in, like, a webcam.
I'm not sure if it made the final cut, but I credited you and I said it was inspired by, it's something similar to, like, Thorin's thoughts.
No. Unfortunately, that hit the cutting room floor. You know, what are the chances? So convenient.
Do you want me to actually find you the footage?
And send me the footage. Okay. I'll put it on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
No, anyway, it would just be interesting to know. I just wanted to know, Loco, if you cared. That's all I wanted to know. I wanted to know if you cared. Wow. I wondered if during the separation, whether you thought about me, whether you ever watched my stuff and thought, if only things could be different. Why I, a Capulet, cannot be with this?
I still think you're an asshole, and I still think you're an asshole, and I still think you take things overboard sometimes, but I won't deny you do good content.
Listen, no one can deny. Honestly, no one
Oh
can
my
deny
God.
that. There you go.
This is
Like,
what- this is why people don't talk to you.
so, anyway, so
That's such a great meme. Holy shit.
It is. So many great memes have come out of all that shit. So, Loco, I have another question though. So actually, it's
Okay.
about Dyrus.
Okay.
So one of the things that I thought was weird about the way that whole thing was presented was, again, like the idea that it was almost like he died. Like, if we're being real, here's the thing about Dyrus. It's not like he sucks. Like I say this most of the times when a player has to get removed from a top team, right? If they still wanted to play, like if Dyrus wanted to play tomorrow, but he didn't.
Can we have it recorded that Thorin said a player has to get removed from a top team, referring that TSM is a top team, which I think is true.
In
Thorin
the
just
context of NA, yep. In the context of NA.
No, we were talking about World. Dyrus retired
Hey, listen.
during World.
Once, Loco, you won't believe this. Once I said TSM was the 5th best team in the world,
Really?
but then the MSI came.
Okay.
And then the MSI attacked, and then AHQ came along, and then I never said that again after that. Believe it or not, I lost my faith. You know what can I tell you? That's me in the corner losing my TSM religion. But no, the question I had about Dyrus was, the thing about Dyrus is obviously if he really wanted to still play, say he was someone who's just like, you know, I still want to play as a pro. He could obviously have gone to like a lower LCS team and just been a player still. I've said that with tons of people.
If you play for 4 or 5 years, you don't want to play anymore. Dyrus
Sure.
is much more happier doing what he is, streaming and stuff. Like, I would not, like, if Dyrus played on, like, people around him would suggest him against it. Like, why would he play? Like, he has a good career. Call it good domestic career if you want, but he had a really good career. He has a large fan base.
If you want. No, just factually. You know.
His stream does well. The content he puts out gets a lot of views. Why would he want to play for a lower LCS team and put a black mark on it, like his career?
Oh, well, come on. That's another thing people do. It doesn't really put a black mark on your career to go and play for a team that's not as good. Like
If
when
he'd
Brett
played-
Favre came back and played for like the Vikings or whatever, it doesn't mean that he's suddenly everyone's like, well, he was obviously just shit in the Green Bay Packers. No, he's still that still exists, mate. There's no problem. He just did an extra year somewhere else, didn't he?
You know, like there's a thing in Korea, like quit while or not. I guess it's not a thing in Korea, but Koreans have it too. Quit when you're ahead. Like
We've got a saying here in Texas. I'm sure you got it here in Tennessee as well. You can't. Okay, yeah. Reference game on point there, George Bush. So quit while you're ahead. Yeah, it's a saying in English as well, actually.
Oh my God. Anyways, like someone like Pumandu, if he quit right after season 3 Worlds, then whenever people talk about best support of all time, like Pumandu's name would come up because he would never have like a bad support game throughout his entire career, but he played on and then he put a huge black mark on his career. Like,
all right.
So you should, Loco, you should have just quit after the OGN LOL Invitational. Then everyone would think of you as one of the great AD carries of all time.
And people would be like, "Holy shit! If Loco still played today." Like,
sadly, they saw the rest, so they were like, "Yeah, not so much." Okay.
Yeah, however, as far as Mondu is concerned, we would still think that Mata is one of the best supports of all time, even though he didn't have a spectacular year in China, right?
Yeah.
Fair?
I mean,
so I disagree.
Okay, but Mondu would have a better argument for himself if he didn't show that weak split he had, where he had to come back with Piglet. There would be a better argument if you don't have a weak performance. Like, you can't deny that. If you have a weak performance that weakens your like.
Here's the thing. I know what you mean by this. Like, it's true. The perception of you will be that you're better. So the perfect example of this in sports actually is Michael Jordan, because he originally retired the second time after he'd literally won like 6 championships total. He was at the peak of his powers, right? But then he came back again years later when he was really washed up, and he just played for like a not very good team that he was the manager of at the time. And so he didn't do anything great there. But the thing is, okay, no one says he's not the greatest player, but it's true. If he'd left on the image of him being the best, then you would think it would skew your perception, essentially. You would think that that's how he always would have been for years afterwards.
Can you imagine if Mad Life quit after like season 2 or season 3? Like, people would still fucking talk about Mad Life as like, holy shit, Mad Life's the best player ever if he played today. Like, they would still say ridiculous things like, if Mad Life played mid, he'd be better than Faker. Like, people would say like dumb shit like that if Mad Life retired after season 2 or season 3.
No, that's what I agree with. That's the key point, is that because he didn't play the other seasons where we know that the person went downhill, people would, in their mind, they'd imagine you'd never drop off. That's true. Yeah. That's what people would think. Okay, so continuing on, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
So SK Telecom now has probably one of the only chances in history for the team that actually won Worlds to keep the whole team together and maybe even win the next Worlds. Because every single Worlds, the team that wins it never even makes it back to Worlds again in the past.
Yeah.
And then also in Korea, in general, teams don't tend to repeat. It only happened once in history. I mean, it happened twice actually, I guess. It happened this season as well. So in general, there was always like a big turnover where even if you kept the team together like SKT did after the first Worlds, some other team's going to rise up past you.
Yeah.
Do you think this team could actually do it? Could they, if they just kept all these players together, could they really be the best again in 2016?
If they had a different support, I would be more inclined to say yes. I think Wolf is a good player, but his pool is limited and he's significantly weaker on engaged non-melee champions. So if the meta dramatically shifted,
Well,
and then
his Janna is super good, but besides Janna, I would agree with you. Besides his Janna,
if the meta dramatically shifted and like Sona, Nami, what else, like Zyra was like the core champions, and then that was the Worlds patch, and Wolf didn't improve, then SKT would be in trouble. Like this meta, or the meta at Worlds really favored Wolf for as support pool goes. So
in your
it's hard to
AMA,
say.
someone asked you who the best players in the world are, and for Korea,
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this, Monty. Loco just listed everyone from SKT except Wolf. He put Gorilla in Wolf's place, so he has SKT as the best at every position except support. You've gone full LoL esports on me, Loco. You're Loco esports. That's what you are.
Wait, do you disagree? I would have put Gorilla or Peekaboo, and I thought of it a lot, and then I was like, holy shit, this team, if this was the team, this team doesn't need a high variance player. They need someone that's really consistent.
No, that's the problem, though. That's the thing. What you're talking about now is team. So, okay, as team, I agree. SKT's got a great team. But some of the players in their team, I think, are only that good because they're in that team. Like, I'll give you an example. So, Bengi is wicked in SK Telecom. That's the perfect team for him. But Chaser is probably a better jungler than Bengi, just as a jungler alone.
No. If you put Chaser in SKT...
No, that's not what we're doing, though.
No,
we're
that's not what we're
asking the best players.
What are you asking, then? You're asking... Isn't the person asking me the question, like, make the best, like, the Thorin question, like, if aliens came to Earth and you had to defend Earth, who would be the
No, they just asked you who the best players were.
Okay, I mean, but it's hard to say best players individually, because, say, Chaser is probably stronger mechanically, his jungle pathing is a lot more varied, and the stuff he does is more creative, but stuff like that might not be that great. Like, you might not need that on SKT, or you might not need that in this meta at all. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, but we're just talking about who the best players are. Put it this way, I think Rosh is better than Bengi.
Why?
Have you ever seen that guy play? He's fucking amazing. He can carry the whole game himself, even when he's got dog shit players like Gate on his team.
Okay.
Even when he's got like Adrian's his AD carry with the only damage source, he can still carry a whole game.
The problem with Rush is that he'll like tower dive and die sometimes, and then like throw a game right off the bat because he tries to do something that's way too fancy mechanically, or that he doesn't have necessary information to make that play.
All right. Well, let me defend my point. My point is I understood the question as like your alien question, and if I had to put together a group of 5, that would be the best to defend against.
Okay, that's a good answer. But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So then let me literally put the question I originally stated was. So for example, do you actually think Bang is the best AD carry in Korea?
Bang?
Yeah.
Let's see. Prey. Arrow. Prey, Arrow. CJ Space.
OQ.
OQ.
Yeah, Bang. Yeah, in Korea, Bang's the best. I can say that pretty confidently.
What do you think, Monty?
I think Bang is the best, but I think you have to take a look at some of the other. You know what's weird is like Prey has gotten better. Prey is somewhat. He has his ups and downs. I thought he was playing pretty well at Worlds, and I thought he ramped up towards the end of the season. I thought he was pretty bad for parts of the early summer season. I think underrated AD. I think Fury is really underrated. I think Fury is real good, but he just has a crap team.
Okay, what about top laner? Because this actually ties me back into the original question I was going to ask before you did that diversion with asking Monty questions, which is I was going to say, okay, so Marin is the MVP of Worlds, but was he actually the best top laner at Worlds? So is Marin the best top laner in Korea, Loco?
So me and Andy actually had an argument about this where I said Someday was better, but Andy said Marin's better because of the shot calling and he's able to lead his team. And it depends what you're looking for exactly. Like, do you determine also shot calling part of like who he is, like how he can control his teammate, how he can lead his teammate? Like, because if you look at someone like Cloud Templar and High, like if you just look at them as a player, they weren't like amazing, best in the world players, but they were a core part of their teams, and without
Sure,
them, the
yeah.
team would break down because of the leadership. If you include leadership, Marin is definitely the best top laner in Korea and probably the world.
I'm confused by that though, because Smeb's a shot caller as well.
But okay, here's the thing: like Smeb is a shot caller, but their shot calling is so linear. It's like, okay,
Mate, he
when
has
people-
fucking Hojin and Kuro on his team. The other guy has Faker and Mengi.
yeah, but what is it? The way they win is like so. It's not as refined as SKT. If you look at the games, SKT versus KU at finals, even in the game that KU was really ahead in, they would trade objectives not so favorably compared to how ahead they were. But when SKT's ahead little by little in mid and top and jungle, like the way they trade objective and they make dives is like worlds apart. The shot calling is worlds apart. It's not Marin as a
I think the Q Tigers did demonstrate that they were capable, especially in some of their group stage games, of making plays very far in advance of the curve. I mean, those CLG games, the way Ku was playing was amazing.
But you have to do it versus the best teams in the world, and SKT did it versus.
Well, the Ku Tigers did it consistently in Korea too, and you can't just discount that the Ku Tigers had a very impressive history of coming back against even very good teams. So I think that they are a very advanced shot calling team. Do I think they're as good as SKT? No, but I think they're still a very elite team in that regard.
And how does Smeb contrast to Marin Monte?
Well, I think that first off, I think that Smeb is more safely aggressive in the laning phase, especially early on. Marin is kind of bad with making vision plays or accounting for the enemy jungler early in the laning phase, and that can get him killed. Smeb does play overly aggressive and all in at times when he shouldn't. He actually did give up first blood quite a bit in the World Championship, but he also just knows his limits really well, and he's got a bigger champion pool than Marin does. So I think Smeb is a very solid player himself. I think on just if we eliminate shot calling from the equation, I would rather have Someday or Smeb than Marin personally, just because of the size of their champion pools, and I think that they are more capable of both playing tanks and hard carrying a game. But they also it's hard to say because they do really have very different strengths. Marin is more of a tank and an AP top player because his Lissandra, which he didn't even play at Worlds, even though he's spamming solo queue with it, is really, really good. And his Rumble is obviously really, really good. Meanwhile, Someday not really a Rumble player at all and not as much of an AP player, where Someday and Smeb much more looking for like those Riven style melee physical damage carries in the top lane in addition to the tanks. So just different.
The way that crew plays when they're ahead is like it was very apparent in the Fiora game because SKT when they're ahead they win by using all their leads and combining it into like a one big ass play to like make the lead huge. But with crew when they're ahead it's default to Smeb split pushing and then let's get ahead from split pushing. It's very, very linear compared to SKT. I feel like SKT has when they're ahead, they know what the best option is to make the lead big as possible. And KU is like, okay, we're ahead, let's go split push. That's our thing.
So who did you actually pick as better, Monty, of the two?
Smeb or Marin or Someday? Which two?
Yeah, which do you think is the best Korean top liner?
I would say Smeb or Someday right now. It's hard though. They're all super good. So, but that would be my opinion.
For me, including shot calling, Marin, like no questions asked. Without shot calling, probably Someday.
Okay. See, there's a trend that I know you don't watch so many Insight Monty. No one, Loco, no one on TSM did. I never used to go into the viewer list when we were streaming and see all your accounts there because you idiots didn't log out at Twitch. That never happened. Don't worry. I never saw any of you there.
You unmodded me.
It never.
My God.
What do you expect?
That's
so
wow. You remod me.
That was a metaphor, Loco, for what happened with you when you stopped coming on the show, which is you no longer had a voice. You were just one of the plebs, one of the sea of peasants again. So I just had to put you in that position. Anyway, though, what I was going to say was...
I'm back on the show, so am I getting remodded?
Sure. So I don't really care, but we don't even mod that shit. People just spam whatever the fuck they want in there. We don't even check it anyway. So there's a trend that we often have on the show where ever since 2015 started, I always keep bringing Monty up to date on what a dark timeline we exist in, with the fact that like all the great players went to China and like shit the bed and like irrelevant, and Dandy's playing top, all the terrible things that have happened that if someone told you about in the past, you'd be like, no, that sounds so horrible. Well, imagine this, okay? Imagine I got in a time machine now and I went back to the darkest time in Monty's life. It was actually just after CLG had lost that series to Dignitas and they were into relegations, okay? It was over for him. Everyone, for some reason, I don't know why, we'll just leave the details out there. Everyone thought he was a fake coach who wasn't even a good coach or ever, in fact, a real coach. For some reason, people had that perception, don't know how they got it. And, loose lips sink ships, I've heard. But so in this moment, imagine I appear from my time machine, like, the Terminator-style wormhole. I appear naked, crouching on the floor in front of Monty. So there's one dream fulfilled. And then I say to him, Monty, I come from the future. And he can tell I do because I've got a lot of Skrilla now. So my gear's a lot more swagged out. I used to be like very basic back then, just a young, hardworking guy. So I appear to him and I say to him, in the future, all these terrible things happen, Monty. Like, Dandy's playing top lane in obscurity in Korea, in China. This shit team called Xiaogu are like experimenting with sandbagging lane swaps to just to not qualify for Worlds. Like I tell you, all this dark shit happens, right? Like China wins MSI, the fall of everything great. And then I even tell him, and here's the sad thing, Loco, he would think this is a bad thing. I tell him SK Telecom S just puts Faker mid lane and they win Worlds as well. He'd be like, what the fuck? Like, it's all done as shit. It's all just terrible now. But I tell him, but you know what, Monty? In this moment, there's one good thing happens. We get Loco back. That's all that matters. We get Loco back. So it all worked out in the end, right? It all worked out. He was the
chosen one. Yeah. All the suffering was worth it just for this one beautiful golden moment that we're sharing together.
Well, in the topic of time travel and like me being back, like I don't regret like going to TSM, and I learned a lot while I'm TSM, and I hope I am a more mature. I'm a better person, honestly. Like TSM helped me incredibly.
We'll be the judge of that. You calm down there.
You don't get to be the judge of if I matured or if I had a good experience on TSM or if I actually did.
I do. I'm gonna judge the shit out of you. Watch me. I'm doing it right now. You can't stop me.
Okay, whatever. Well,
in many ways, that's a metaphor for TSM's relationship with our show, mate.
I know I'm a more mature person. Okay. I'm a better person for being on TSM. I don't regret it at all.
Okay.
I do feel sad. What happened between us two or us three, whatever, and we're friends now, so I'm fine with it.
See, that's the thing, Loco. I wasn't even going to bring that up, mate. I just gave my own time travel story, and I was going to move on. Then you were suddenly out of nowhere, like a reflex. You were like, listen, on the topic of time travel, I don't regret going to TSM, and I like all of them, and I'm very good friends with Reginald, and nothing else needs to be said about it. None of you can. Only God can judge me. Hashtag only God can judge Loco. Once this
I didn't even say that. You're just putting words in my mouth.
Okay. That's another theme of the show, mate. Have you been keeping up? That's what I do. Okay, that's what I do.
What he does is you start opening your mouth, and then he tries to shove all the words in there, and you have to violently spit them back in his face. Otherwise, he gets the last say. That's how it works here.
Yeah, I'm on with the program. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. He's on with the
I've been here before.
Okay, interesting. So I've got a real question for you that's interesting though. Last time you came on the show, which if you remember, I don't know if you remember the timeline actually, Loco. What happened was, I think it was on like episode 7, you first came on the show, everything was going great. I just got to Korea. And then from what I remember, or maybe it was just before, then only 3 episodes later, suddenly you're on the show again because you invited yourself onto the show. And we just thought, well, that's nice. It's not often that guests ask to be on the show. Okay, we'll oblige him. He obviously has something very important to say. Then you sort of used the show as a very thinly veiled shilling advert for yourself as a coach for either Alliance or TSM, who you quite explicitly... I mean, you weren't even very good with it, Loki. You were just saying, like, now, if I was to be the coach of, say, a team like Alliance, like, even though the whole time behind the scenes you were just doing all that anyway. So obviously, in the end, you had a choice, much like Morpheus, myself, the Morpheus Alpha Draft, gave everyone that red pill and blue pill choice, You could have just taken the blue pill, become a nice coach of Alliance, been a wonderful guy who could have kept coming on the show. It would have been a lovely time, Instead, you chose the red pill. You went to the real world, which is very dark and it's sort of subterranean and you just eat gruel there and they have no superpowers there. So you chose the TSM path. I just want to know, Have you ever thought, just as a hypothetical, have you ever thought what would happen if you'd be the coach at Alliance instead?
I guess I don't like thinking back. The choice wasn't, I guess that attractive as I thought it was.
Okay.
So it's not something I think about a lot. Like I think about like regrets in my career about like if I did this differently, this really good thing would have happened to me. But I felt like going to TSM was a better choice for me. So it's not something like if you felt like you made the right choice, you don't go back and think about what if I made the wrong choice,
Yeah.
So I'm happy.
Well,
I don't really think about that.
I wouldn't say there was a wrong choice in that scenario. Open parenthesis for the sake of this argument. I mean, I think they were both two wonderful choices. Led you down different paths. I just wonder what Loco might have been like as the coach of Alliance, because obviously they've struggled to find strong coaching, but they had very good players at the time.
I mean, career-wise, like personal growth-wise, TSM was way better for me.
Exactly. Adversity helps you grow as a person. That's a famous philosophy in life, Loco.
Okay, that's why I'm on the show.
There we go. He did it. He finally did it, Monty. He actually deflected one. Well done. See, it's like seeing your son take his first steps. Get the camera, Monty. He did it. There we go. There we go. We got the moment.
This is actually the hyperbolic time chamber for your own content. See, because you have to develop the banter skills to keep people interested.
I don't think I was ever bad at talking or bantering.
Okay.
Do you think that was?
A joke just like Monty's coaching, lol. That's not very witty for Twitter. I'm sorry. So yes, I don't think you were that good.
I thought the best we had, like, I'm saying it again, but I regret like damaging the friendship. But I thought like the rivalry between like you, me, and then like it hyped up a lot of the matches,
Oh,
and I think a lot of people were more interested in watching the matches. Anytime someone watches TSM, they're like, if we lose, they're gonna be like, oh, what is Thorin gonna say? Or if we win, like, oh, what is TSM gonna say to gloat? Like, it made matches way more hype.
It does.
If you want to talk about witty,
look, man, I'm the one who advocates for all of this stuff. You don't have to explain it to me.
See, Monty, to be fair to Loco, one of my favourite tweets also wasn't that witty. What happened was, when TSM lost that last game in MSI, all I did was 1 second later, I did a tweet. And all I did is I typed in and I got exactly the 140 characters. And it just said, ha 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 ha. And then I just said, and believe it or not, just that tweet alone got like 700 retweets or something. Somehow people knew what I was talking about. I didn't even have to say anything. I could have just watched a Marx Brothers movie or something. But no, people knew. They knew, Loco. They knew what I was laughing at.
Of course, because why would they not know? Look at how you act on Twitter. Anytime something bad happens to TSM, why would they not know?
It's great, isn't it? You just
What's great?
Again, it's like a Buddhist philosophy, Loco. What you have to do is take the darkness and the light in the world and transform it into light.
You're far away from Buddhism.
I'm the incarnation of the Buddha, Loco. So I take the bad things that happen to TSM and I turn them into good things for me.
At this rate.
I just turn them into good things for me. It's a good way to view life, right? To enjoy things.
Namaste.
See, he could make a commercial edit, put him in the Summoning Insight Plus intro, that Loco can be in it as well. When Monty's Summoning Insight Plus logo. What did you think of that, Loco? When Monty did that series where the intro was like him doing all that cringy shit, like just looking around. It's like, I can't even remember what the lyrics are. It's like, when he did that clap at the end for his show.
I'm not gonna deny I watched some Summoning Insight while I was on TSM, but I didn't watch every episode.
No, that was actually Monty did a show on OGN where it was, what was it called? The Countdown of Monte Cristo.
The Double Shin? Okay, I actually don't know. Sorry.
The Countdown of Monte Cristo, where he counted down the games each week. He's never seen it. Wow, you've just hurt Monty worse than anything you ever did in your entire life. I didn't even know I was setting that up, but that was brutal.
Did you know that my entire sense of self-worth is actually dependent on whether Locodoco watches my YouTube videos?
Wow. Well, I'll try
to
watch
them. That's the stake through the heart right there.
I'm going to go to your YouTube channel. I'm going to watch every single video in full, and then I'll give you the screenshot where all your YouTube video is grayed out because I watched all of them. I'll make it up.
That would be the ultimate way to make it up to him in many ways. Sad thing is, that actually probably would make Monty feel a bit better. He'd be like, there we go.
Well, I mean, if it makes you feel better, I did start watching you guys' content because I feel like you guys make good content, and I want my content to be good because I watch some of you guys' stuff for inspiration.
Oh,
Okay.
you're sweet.
And I thought you were a really good coach for TSM in those first 2 splits.
Thank you.
So, okay, let's continue then. So, after Worlds, we had the Kesper Cup. Now, with the Kesper Cup stuff, actually wasn't really like all the details hadn't been announced. Actually, it seemed like it was quite slow working all that stuff out. But when the tournament came along itself, it had a number of like top teams, including the reigning world champions. But shockingly, they were beaten by this unknown team called Ever, who was literally just like a net cafe team. And that team, to even get to that point in time,
No, it was literally not like a net cafe team. That's a misrepresentation. They actually do have a team house and coaches and stuff.
Okay.
Now. They started that way, but they do have a staff now.
Okay, but the team to even get that actually had to beat some LCK teams. They beat, I think, Samsung, and then they beat Anarchy, and eventually they got to where everyone thought, right, they're going to lose now. They had to play SK Telecom in the semi-finals. And admittedly, it was a best of 3, and in game 1, SK Telecom did use Scout, so they obviously didn't think it was like a game that like they were going to lose potentially. But SK Telecom ended up losing the series 0-2. Then in the final, this Ever team played CJ, and CJ had their original lineup still, and they beat CJ 3-0. So what do you actually think about the context of this? This has to be one, even though, yeah, they used Scout in game 1 against SKT, it has to be like one of the biggest upsets ever, right, Monty?
I think it is a big upset, but okay. So here's where we have to talk about this. So I have not seen any, at the point of this recording, VODs from Kespa Cup. I have not seen any of the games. All right, I have seen the results. I've seen people's comments on them, but I was on vacation and I didn't have internet, so I wasn't actually able to watch the tournament. By the time IEM San Jose starts, I will have been watching many of these games. It's going to be on the same patch, so I'll be catching up and doing my research. But I just got back from my vacation, so I have not seen any of it yet. So, that qualifier aside, it is surprising that Ever did well. They do have Ares, who's a former Incredible Miracle player, and it was a big upset. But this tournament, remember that after SK Telecom won their last World Championship, they came back to Korea, tried to participate in the WCG qualifier, lost to
Samsung Blue,
which ended up being a much better team later. But this was before the Pawn Dade swap that really activated Samsung Blue and made Samsung Blue like a truly elite team. Because they didn't even do that well in the season, the winter season, that SK Telecom won without losing a single game in the entire season. They won 15-0 like they could have done at Worlds this year. It's also important to note that they had just gotten back from the World Championship. It was an entirely different patch. It was 3 patches later, because this was like 5.21 with Kindred enabled. They had no Kindred practice. Kindred was a very important champion throughout this tournament because Kindred is very strong. So it was a different meta. These teams, the World's teams, didn't have practice. They were on break, a lot of them. So it is a big upset for obvious reasons, but I wouldn't take it like the sky is falling or anything like that.
Loco, what do you actually think of the champion Kindred, this new champion? Because I've always thought that that's what we were like. We're like Kindred spirits, but much like Kindred, that can actually it transforms into a completely different type of animal that it's totally different. So I feel like you might be able to relate to this. What do you actually think of the champion Kindred? Is it going to be good in this season?
So a champion like Kindred, where you can play a completely different role in where it's not usually played, like say something like an AP top. Like one key point of Rumble is that he brings AP damage from top lane. Like that is an actual really, really big point about Rumble. Like it's something pretty unique to him that's usually not given to top champions, like AP damage. There are a lot more champions that do AP damage now, and then it's not as exclusive now, but it is a key point. And Kindred being an AD and like a full-on carry damage dealer is it's a huge point about Kindred. It allows certain comps. It allows your comp to be more damage heavy. It allows you to play tank tops without having to worry about, are we gonna have enough damage? And the champion itself right now is strong. Like even without all those advantages, like Kindred is really strong. But cause she's a strong champion and she also has that uniqueness that allows certain comps that will never be normal and be good without a champion like that in the jungle. Like the concept alone makes her pretty strong.
So which positions will it actually be used in?
Jungle. I think Kindred jungle is the right position. I just think if a all the top champions follow a certain role, all the mid champions follow a certain role, and when you break that role and then you get additional tools that other champions don't, there should be some kind of drawback, and I feel like Kindred doesn't. So if her drawback is her numbers get a lot worse, then she's gonna hit a point where she's too bad enough to not play. But if her numbers are good enough and she has all those benefits, then she's gonna be played a lot and she's gonna be OP because she allows certain comps.
What do you think, Monty?
I think Loco's on top of it. I need to, again, before I make any more evaluations, I need to see some more of these Kindred games. Again, I haven't seen any competitive games since Kindred was released. I just know what the pick and bans were, and I know that you feature very prominently. So unfortunately, I can't really offer more of an opinion on this topic right now.
So, okay, there's been a lot of roster changes that we can discuss. So, actually, do you want to do a break here? Does anyone need the toilet or a drink or something? That would be an appropriate time to do it.
Wait,
Alright,
can we
let's do
finish
it.
talk about? Wait. Whoa, we were because we're on the topic of Kespa Cup. Shouldn't we
Okay.
talk about CJ and then like?
Yeah. Okay, do that now then.
Okay, so to me, CJ losing wasn't surprising at all. The coaching staff being completely replaced before Kespa Cup. Like, if your coaching staff is already on its way out and you're playing a tournament, then like, what are you gonna do? And also, like, CJ them not having any roster swaps throughout like a year is like, it's such a huge mistake. There were clear upgrades that they could have taken that they never explored, and they were okay with mediocrity, like being mediocre. And if you have a mediocre player on your team and he's not getting replaced, even if you're really good, that's going to be really, really demotivating. I don't know what was going on throughout the last year of CJ. Like, they're my home team, they're where I started, so I feel really bad. Like, CJ's been like a shitty team for such a long time, but they need a change, and change is finally coming, but I feel like it's like 2 years late. How do you guys feel?
Actually, that's the thing I want to ask you there, Monty, is how do you actually evaluate the CJ coaches? Because on one hand, okay, the problem I feel is because originally when the team was Azubu and was MiG, it had more success overall, especially at the highest possible level. It'll always seem like the CJ era wasn't that good, but it's not like I can say across the board they were just bad at even recruiting players, because actually the way they transformed Blaze and Frost at different points in times looked quite promising. You looked at the times like maybe they're heading in the right direction, but ultimately they never did win another OGN or have any like big international successes beyond the first period of CJ. So what do you think of the coaching aspect?
Also, you have to remember that the coaching staff that was in place. So Coach Sun was the principal coach for Blaze during when Blaze was playing really well, when they were like winning WCG and they were making it to finals and champions back with CJ. So they did have a lot of success with some of their rosters.
At the beginning, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I felt like Coach Son or Sun Dae-young being coach of Blaze wasn't like a huge plus for them. They were a team that were functional on their own, and coaching was more emotional coaching than anything. It's sort of like Oregon, where I feel like
Origin,
not to diss their coaching staff or anything, but I feel like Origin would be like 90%, 85% functional even without a coaching staff, because they have like players that come up with their own strategy. Their players are really, really experienced, and Blaze was like that at that era.
Okay, so let's talk about this, because you were part of, Coach Kong, who goes by the name of On Air, because he was back when you were playing on MiG. So why don't you tell us what you think and your personal experience of working with the CJ coaching staff, because these people have not changed ever since the MiG days.
Yeah, and ever since the incarnation of MiG. I think Coach Kong is like a really good leader, and he puts faith into people a lot, and he trusts them to, he just trusts people blindly, and he's like, okay, you're my friend and I'm gonna trust you, and I put my trust in you. It doesn't matter what people are saying on the outside, it doesn't matter like what I'm seeing, I don't care, like I trust you. And like that's a really good trait about him, but in a competitive professional environment, like that can be a really bad trait. Like if you put your blind faith into someone and you're clearly wrong and that person is clearly doing bad and you can't like turn away, then your team's gonna go to shit.
Have you ever heard of a guy called Wild Turtle?
Okay, well, it's a separate topic, but I think Turtle is a good AD. I think Turtle has his own issues, and Turtle under the right coaching staff will be really, really fucking good.
Didn't you say in your AMA that one of the key things about being an AD carry is positioning and understanding that? Isn't that the one thing Wild Turtle never had? He had good mechanics at times. He had certain champions he was a beast on. His positioning was terrible.
Okay, Turtle's positioning, like, Turtle needs more help, like, in terms of mentally. Not to say, like, he's mentally wrong, but, like, his mental...
Don't ever say that, Loco. Don't ever make that mistake. It can be very costly to say something like that. That Wild Turtle is mentally wrong. I made that mistake once, mate, but continue.
Okay. Well, if Turtle can get a good mental state and go into the game, like his team fighting is amazing. Turtle's Jinx, like one of our set comp was Turtle Jinx with Bjergsen on a support champion, because Turtle and team fight straight up carried our team. I mean, but it's when Turtle's in a bad mental state or he makes dumb mistakes, and then people just see that and be like, oh, Turtle sucks at positioning, Turtle sucks at team fight. Yes, it looks like he's bad at team fight, but you have to see like why was he there? Like he's making a dumb mistake. I don't think Turtle's a bad team fighter. I think Turtle needs mental coaching more than anything. That's my point of view on Turtle. Strong mechanically. Turtle's hilarious to be around, and he's great for the team mood. Like, there's so much shit talk around Turtle, and people don't know the whole story, so I want to get it out there.
So I've got a question for you. While we're on the topic of TSM players and you're defending them, etc., I've got some info, and this will actually be new information to you, Loco, because I don't know. Okay, do you ever watch the True LOL show in Korea?
Yeah, I watch it sometimes. I don't watch every episode, but it's one of the shows I watch.
So I've got some information here for Monty, because he might not have watched the episode this was on. In fact, I don't know if this episode's been translated yet, because the person who gave me this info did some translation for me from when it came out in Korean. So there was an episode of the True LOL show where on this show, it was after Worlds. And Cloud...
I think I know which one.
Do you know where I'm going?
Yeah, it's where they shit talk Turtle and they say, what is it, versus TSM, you just have to wait out and wait for Turtle.
No, I was actually gonna, believe it or not, going to talk about Amazing. So it's not a TSM player now, but it was formerly a player, so I wanted to bring this up. So on the show, what's interesting is Cloud Templar sets up the thing he's going to say by saying, like, you know, in general, the jungler shouldn't be blamed for bad plays in the eyes of a viewer because, you know, like, unless it's a very specific case where they did something terrible, then usually... you know, the jungler's decisions are based on the team's decisions. And so in most scenarios, he even says, like, he doesn't blame the jungler if, like, the jungler just does something that looks wrong initially. He often is like, because he is a former jungler himself, he knows that, okay. But here's what's interesting. I thought you'd find this interesting, Monte and Loco. But he then says that after reviewing Origins games, he actually attributed 30 to 40% of Origins failures solely to Amazing, saying that his play was basically terrible and that he can take back all that stuff he just said about you don't blame the jungler in that particular sense, and that he thought, oh, another one, here's another. Oh, so first of all, react to that. What do you think, Monty, of that? Cloud Templar just going ham on your boy Amazing. Right, first of all, Cloud Templar, you are banned from talking to TSM. You are biased. They don't appreciate that. I don't know why you hate them.
Well, if Cloud Templar is talking about this world and it's after 2015 Worlds, then Amazing is not even on TSM. Why would he get banned?
No, it was a joke. The joke doesn't have to make sense, you know. There's a famous saying, Loco. A joke is like a frog. If you dissect it, it dies.
Okay.
So, okay, Monty, what do you think about Amazing in Origin?
I think that Amazing actually played pretty well during the regular season and the playoffs. I don't think Amazing played very well at Worlds this year. I think that he performed worse than I had seen him in the playoffs, and XPK performed better. Apparently because XPK was not able to play and deal with the team in the regular season, which makes perfect sense, and probably why you shouldn't have player owners in general. Oh,
actually, I just remembered it. I got one detail wrong. It was Cloud Templar who said all the first stuff, but the actual line that 30 to 40% of the mistakes was by Donjun Kim, and he even like popped in. They were just going off, Loco. They were straight roasting your boy. They were just.
Okay. I mean, Dongjun likes to roast foreign players.
Okay. And then also, here's another great one for you. Let's see. Here's another great one. So then they also, Cloud Templar talked about Rainover and said that Rainover's Skarner play against Ku was probably in his top 3 worst performances ever. What do you think of that?
Top 3 Rainover worst performance?
I assume so.
Top 3 jungle performance? I mean, I personally didn't get to watch the game, so...
Do you remember that game, Monty?
Okay. I remember quite clearly. So part of the Skarner play that Rainover had, first off, it was mostly a drafting mistake because Ku was so easily able to kite the Skarner, and then they got 3 QSSs early, so Skarner couldn't do anything. I think that mostly that was a draft problem in that particular game from Fnatic because Rainover didn't have the tools around him to actually do anything on Skarner. Like half their team was kiting, he was going in and trying to get somebody with his ult. It was just a really bad draft phase. Really bad. And that definitely...
Go ahead.
No, I just think that was most of the reason.
One point I want to make is Skarner was a terrible pick for Worlds. It was like a trap pick because Skarner got remade, and everyone did really well on Skarner, and everyone's like, oh, Skarner's great. Everyone, let's play Skarner. Fucking IG played Skarner. Like, you have a player like Cacao, and you're like, okay, Cacao, you're a really good mechanical, early game, like, punishing player. I'm gonna put you on a champion that wants to farm for until he's level 6, and then that wants to do big team fight plays. Like, what the hell? And that's not what Worlds was about either. Like, it was about early game pressure from jungle, and that's why Elise and Rek'Sai and Gragas were really, really valued. So if you had a bad performance on Skarner, I think some of it can be excused to playing Skarner at Worlds meta.
I didn't actually get your take though, Loco. What did you think of Amazing then? Because obviously he was on TSM for a while, and then he was on Origin, and Origin was in your group, so you must have seen some of their games and must have some info on him. What do you think of him as a jungler?
Amazing, just as general, working with him, knowing him, watching him play is like, he's a good guy, and he actually really cares for his teammates. That's not something I see a lot. I'm not gonna mention who, but a mutual friend was really, really drunk after after Worlds, and Amazing, like, literally took time out of his free time after Worlds. He was out of groups, and he literally took time out a party to help this person, like, go home safely, like, make sure he went to his hotel. And I've never seen a player do that for, like, someone that wasn't very important, or like that was part of his team or anything like that. Like, so Amazing is a genuine person, and I find that's really rare in esports. So
how's he at that video game, League of Legends? I mean, I know he helps like old women across the street. He gives to charity. He's in the choir.
Because people just view players as like players, and like they just think of them as video game players. But there's a lot more to people than esports players than just being a player. Like, there's personality, what kind of person he is, and I think that's important to say. Okay. And I think that's part of like how people should judge people.
Okay.
Or how fans should judge players. Anyways, Amazing as a player, really good early. He knows where to pressure. He likes making ganks. He knows how to snowball lanes. Really communicative. Knows how to make vision plays. But like, a fatal flaw to Amazing is whenever the team is losing, or whenever he feels pressure to make a play, he overplays a lot, and sometimes it costs the team the game. It happened on TSM. It happened on OG. Like, it's like a fatal mistake to a great player.
Because that's one of the things, to this day, I still don't really understand why people who are TSM fans present it like we mad shit talked Amazing. You go back and watch those episodes, you'll never find any shit talk.
Okay, I do think some of the stuff he says implies that Amazing is bad on champions outside of Elise. And
he was. He won one game out of 18 or something, mate.
Okay, I think Amazing's Jarvan was pretty good. I think his Kha'Zix was pretty good, and
why wasn't he winning any games on him?
Well, I mean, there's multitude of reasons. Like, in scrims, Amazing did amazing on Jarvan. He did really good on Kha'Zix too, and his Nunu carried us in the Dignitas series.
I mean, his Jarvan was dog shit at Worlds.
This Worlds or
last Worlds?
The
one that you were his coach for.
Okay. I would have to go back and rewatch the games, but versus Samsung White, I think that's what you're talking about. They were just really good at flanking, and they knew how to play lanes, and they understood advanced concepts that we personally didn't know, and then we played it multiple times, and we were able to catch up to them somewhat, but they still hid some of it, and they showed it to us during the games, and we didn't have answers for some of it. And the level 1 planning was bad. I'm gonna take fault for that. Like, we knew where the fuck Dandy was gonna start, and we knew what kind of level 1 they were gonna do. We knew they were gonna fucking invade, and like, I just didn't prep as much as I should have. I should have been like, okay, this is the level 1 they're gonna do. This is what we're gonna counter with level 1. I just told the guys, Fan and Dandy's most likely to do this, and then we should counter by doing that. And it should have been something discussed way before, like weeks before, and then we should have been prepped for it. Like, I'm gonna take fault for like us getting shit on early, and Amazing got 3 buffed a lot. So yes, his performance versus Samsung White did look bad.
Okay, so here's the thing. When you said there, don't you think the things that you said implied that he was bad on certain champions, ergo he's a bad player? No, I've made this point multiple times, but I'll just stress it one final time because it's probably never going to come up again, okay? So what I said was I looked at the stats that he had on all the champions, right? And at the time, there was the 3 champions that were super meta. It was like Lee Sin, I think it was, who was the other ones? Lee Sin, Elise, and what was the third one? Kha'Zix, maybe? It might have been those 3. I think it might have been those 3. Let me think. Yeah. Okay, so let's say those were the 3 anyway. On those 3, he had all of his wins except 1 during the season. On every other champion, and he played about 8 others, he only had 1 win in all the times he's played. Now, what's interesting is people always countered that by saying, but those were the meta champions. Everyone was only good on those. But that's exactly why I made the point in the first place. Is because when I looked up the stats for him, I also looked up the stats for every other player in the league. And here's the interesting part, okay? I looked at every other player on those 3 champions that he was good on and on all the others. And he only had 1 win on all the others. Everyone else in the league had more than 1. Like the worst jungler had 2. Some people had 4. Some people had like 6. So here's the interesting point. I'm actually not saying he's shit because I always said he was a good jungler and that he could carry games on those champions. So think about it logically. By your logic, I'm saying every other jungler in LCS was better than him. No, that's exactly what I'm not saying. I'm saying they were better on the other champions. He was better than most of them on the original 3, though. That's why on the original 3, he had a better record than them. Do you see? There's 2 sides to it.
Well, I don't remember the exact context of the tweets.
People who get butthurt never seem to, mate. Funny, whenever I have something where I don't like someone, I can give you the exact scripture and verse of what they said and what it meant, and everyone else just vaguely remembers things that in their own mind they've transformed into something else. So,
right, can I
step to the court, bitch.
All right, I don't remember the exact context of what was said, but from what you said, from what was implied, from what was said on Summoning Insight, a lot of people, including myself, got the feeling that you and Monty didn't think Amazing was a good jungler and he was only good on those 2. I know you're a smart person. I know Monty's a smart person. You might have technically said Amazing was a bad player, but a lot of the things you said does imply that. And regardless of what words were used, like I think that was very clear, and that's why Amazing was upset at you. Or like,
here's what I don't get. This is a scenario that it applies to you in this specific case, but also applies to my whole career. So one of the main complaints people who don't like me have, Loco, is they say that I'm too blunt. I just say what I'm thinking and I don't disguise it, and I just say, like, I don't say this player's bad. I say this player's dog shit. He's total crap. He should never be allowed to play. Okay, so that's what the people say. Okay, so if that's one thing that we're going to put up that I do, why would I then be sending secret subliminal codes that you have to get out your special Thorin rotator disc to find the code for?
Because you like doing this. You like being technically right. You like to say, okay, if you go back and read those tweets, these were the words I used and these were what I said. In no way does it imply Amazing was a bad player, but it was pretty apparent from the context that you did imply Amazing was bad.
No, see, this is the key thing. You've misunderstood this, because what's funny is you described like a person's personality in their game and they're different things, okay? Here's the thing. I don't like Amazing the person. That's because of interactions I've had with him, and then all the shit I've heard behind the scenes. This is one of the people where people who have nothing to do with him as a player.
Like, if Amazing doesn't like you because of stuff that was said, if Amazing got angry at you and he made like a tweet, oh, I disagree with Thorin, or like Thorin shit talking me for no reason, like he doesn't know something. And if you truly thought Amazing was really good on those 2 champions and Amazing was a better jungler, then you would have replied to him in a way that says, oh, Amazing, that's not what I meant. This is what I meant.
No, I would actually never do that, Monty. Loco. If someone fucks with me, I just go, game on. We've got a few years of this to go. And they'll go, no, I'm only going to play the game for 3 months. And I'm like, no, sorry, I'm still going. So
okay, I mean that's why it happened, because you, instead of apologizing, or not even apologizing, instead of clearing up what you meant and what was the message you were trying to convey, you were fine with him misunderstanding and then making it like a personal feud.
It's true, I was. If someone chooses to willfully misunderstand me, I'm great with them continuing. Here's an interesting thing, Loco.
I think
he never had to tweet me. He had me on Skype the whole time. You know what people don't know? I'll give you a little secret background info that no one knows. Everyone on this show doesn't know it right now. Me and Amazing were on the same team. I used to work for a team called Team Acer, and Amazing was the German jungler for that team. So I have Amazing on Skype. He could have messaged me at any point in time. Oh, what did he mean? But he never wanted to. So here's the problem you're not understanding is I don't mind. I don't want to be Amazing's buddy. There's never going to be a 4th box appears now, Loco, where Amazing's in there. We're like, wow, he's on the show as well. Yeah, we're all best friends now. I love that Amazing's butthurt. I don't give a fuck. I know stuff about him personally. So
I think Amazing would be a really good guest. He has a lot to say. He's very opinionated.
He definitely is, mate. He's definitely very opinionated. The problem is, to come on this show, you have to be able to do 2 things. 1, you have to be able to take a joke. He's totally incapable of doing that. 2, you have to be able to like look at your own career and be reasonable about it, etc. So, for example, part of taking a joke is if we have Dexter on the show, we're going to pretend like Dexter's shit, but we're not really. We're just joking with him. The difference is, if you say something like that Amazing, he'll take it at face value, won't he?
But the point of taking a joke or being able to joke around with someone is the context. Like, if Monty makes a joke at me and then Monty and I are friends, then it's a joke. But if Monty and I aren't friends and he makes the same comment, then I'm going to take it as an insult. Like, there's context to the joke.
Sure, I agree.
Okay, I mean, can we move on from this topic? I think we talked about it enough.
Oh, okay.
I think this-
Okay, son, whatever you say.
Didn't both sides say? Do you have more to say? If so, then go ahead. Because
Oh, okay, okay, host Loco. Yeah, okay. How long should I talk for? Okay, yeah, that's the end of the topic. Obviously, I was just wanting to know your opinion on that topic.
I gave my opinion.
Okay.
I not?
Listen, all
Did I
still
not
mates. Loco, we're all still mates. It's all friends still. It's all friends. Bring it down. Bring the emotional level down. I know Amazing gets everyone kind of heated under the collar, you know. He's a very passionate guy, brings that out in others, you know. But it's all in the past now, Loco. Nothing can hurt us anymore as long as we all stay together now. As long as the three of us all agree not to betray each other, no one can ever break this bond, okay?
Bond by blood.
Exactly. Bond by blood.
Okay.
I mean, I love Koreans just as much as you do, Loco. There's actual physical evidence of that in the world. So,
Oh, God.
And Monty is what is it? Korean fellatio expert, right?
Enthusiast.
That was the title. You got?
enthusiast.
Enthusiast.
Okay.
It's a Korean fellatio enthusiast. The enthusiast part is very important.
Right. There have been a lot of roster moves that have gone on, Monty, where all these teams are getting new rosters. And in fact, there's very few rosters that are actually known for certain. So we'll start with one of the ones that was announced and had a lot of interesting drama around it. It's a team called Team Solo Mid. And what they did, yeah, it's just
They're
like
not
an
a very
outfit.
they're not a very popular team. I think
They're not that good, to be honest. I mean, this like dog shit team from China's sub top laner just wrecked them completely. So they can't be that good.
I think they're a really, really underrated team with a small fan base. They're probably one of the best teams in the world, but they just don't have the fan base supporting them. So a lot of people don't talk about them much.
Could be. So the thing about TSM was they've put together. Here's the thing, you know, certain terms get bandied around so often it ruins the term. So, for example, one of the terms that's been really bandied around often, Monty, is like the idea that like at a tournament, people will say any team could win this one. Nearly 99% of tournaments, there's about 2 or 3 teams could win, and in reality, it's not. So as a result, when you say that, it ruins it for when the time comes where there is like 9 teams could win a tournament. So for TSM, I think this is one of the few times you can legitimately say this is like a super team. Like this lineup in terms of Western players is like you've made a lineup that's almost the best you could make out of these sorts of players. Like you look at who you've got. Okay, Hauntzer might not be the best top laner, but he's certainly one of the best in NA during the last split.
Oh, okay, let's start on this. I actually did a piece on it, and so I did a lot of research for this. I think Haunter is one of the best fit for TSM because if you have Double Lift and Bjergsen, these are gold-hungry carries. These are carries that's gonna eat up so much gold, and the perfect player to have in that kind of case is someone like a Dyrus, a low econ, a tank that doesn't need a lot of resource, a player that can do well without the jungler having to be there all the time, and Haunter is the perfect fit for that. Plus, he's an NA resident.
Haunter is a very good laner too.
Yeah, like I think Haunter, like
1v1.
saying Haunter isn't like a great top laner. If you watch Haunter play, he doesn't get shit for resource. His team sucked at 2v1, but he was still relevant, and he was one of the standouts on Gravity without getting resource. And it's really hard to be a standout player without getting the resource, and Haunter managed that.
Problem is, I only call people great players. I have very specific terms that I use to them. I would never call someone a great player if they're a Westerner unless they're like a god. Because for me, Koreans are great players. So if you're going to be a great Western player, you better be like a Bjergsen who dominates the league and is that much better than the rest that I could even make the case maybe they are as good as Koreans, you know.
But like, here's the thing: even if you don't look like a god, if Bjergsen's getting like say, I don't know, like 40%, 30% of the ganks and looking like a god, and there's a player that looks pretty good while he gets like 10% or 5% of the ganks, or like, and he's getting shafted in gold, like skill-wise, isn't that player really, really, really good?
I mean, I think this is getting into like a weird semantics argument because you're almost arguing the whole purpose of him is not to be a main star and carry, yet we usually reserve terms like great, really good, amazing, best player for people who are the stars and carries. So I think it's getting into like a weird area there where you just keep moving the goalposts constantly until eventually I'm like, yes,
okay, well,
now I guess he is by your logic.
All right, then my logic for Hunter is he's a really, really good fit for TSM, and I don't think they could have found a better top.
Out of people,
I think he is a good fit for TSM too. I agree.
Out
with
of
you.
people who are available in the West.
Out of well, being an NA resident is such a bonus.
There we go. That's a key point as well. See, if you add in more context, the statement makes sense more, Loco. Because
I
for
mean,
example,
that is my statement. That
Okay.
was my original statement.
I'll
Hunter
give-
is the best top that TSM could have gotten for their team.
yes,
But that is my
that
statement.
they could have gotten. Now, if we take out the context of NA residency, which is a key point to make, by the way, because they've got so many foreign players. If we
But like
could pick-
whole point of talking about rosters is talking about how a new player will fit into an old roster
Absolutely.
and do well, or like, and talking about the context of the team. Like if we're talking about say MME was still in the like
Yep.
league for some reason. Like we're not going to talk about MME could have gotten Easy Hoon and they could have gotten Flame and they got.
No,
these
you're missing the
players
point
instead.
because you cut me off. I wasn't going to say they could have gotten Smeb and that's who they're better. I was going to say if you don't have any residency, for example, I would actually have chosen someone like Odoamne. I think he does exactly what Hotzer does, but I think he's better. You can disagree if you wish to.
Okay,
That's just
well,
my opinion.
I don't watch enough VU LCS, so it's hard for me to say. But I don't think even Odoamne have to be incredibly good to disregard the foreigner spot.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That's on that topic. I can agree. I was just making that as a point. So, what do you think going beyond that? So we'll just go down the team. Okay, so the next player, Sven Skeren, the jungler. What do you think, Loco?
I think he's going to be the most important player on TSM. Not that he's going to be like all the focal point and like he's going to be the gold hungry like superstar jungler, but how he does and how he interacts with the team is going to be like a huge part of if TSM succeeds or not. You have two gold heavy carries who are super vocal, who knows how to call for ganks well, and who will basically like run the team if you let them. And Sven Skeren is gonna have to find the right balance of snowballing double lift and snowballing Bjergsen, and also making sure Hanser isn't just on an island getting like versus international teams. Versus NA teams, I think Hanser will be fine, like 1v2ing. But versus international teams, if Hanser doesn't get the right kind of help and Sven Skeren isn't used to ganking top or providing the right kind of help, then Hanser's just going to get demolished. So it's going to be very important what Sven Skeren does, the kind of balance he finds, and how much like jungle knowledge he has.
So first off, we don't even know if this is going to be TSM's final version of their roster, right? As I understand it, some of these players are only contracted through the end of IEM, and then they're going to see if they want to contract them for the rest of the year.
Okay.
So it's not definite that this is going to be the roster they go with. I think they're smart to see what they can make of these players and after a boot camp in San Jose, and then moving into the actual tournament itself and see how they perform. My biggest problem with this version of TSM's roster is that they didn't fix the biggest issue previously, which is that who is shot calling on this team? Because I can tell you, because I have been in the room with both Sven Skeren and Kasing while they've been practicing. And in terms of SK Gaming, Sven Skeren is not a shot caller for that, was not the shot caller for that team. And Odoamne was doing most of the shot calling on H2K. So they actually haven't unburdened Bjergsen from the shot calling aspect. And if it was Hanser who was shot calling on Gravity, then I would be very concerned because their lane swaps were absolute garbage. And if that's a top laner shot calling in a lane swap,
I believe they said Bonnie Fufu was the Gravity shot caller.
Lane swap shot calling isn't even player related. I feel like lane swaps are the coaching staff teaches the team lane swaps. This is how you react. This is what our lane swap is going to do, and you do this because it maximizes this and this and this.
Sure.
And then like you don't go into game and someone's like making the decision. It's okay. We learned you react to this by this. Like if your lane swap sucks, then it's your coach's fault, not like in-game player shot calling. If the coach taught you correctly and you fuck it up in game, then it is your fault. But most of the time, it's the coaching staff fault for lane swaps.
I don't feel as strongly as you do about that particular thing. I think that there is what you're saying does hold a degree of truth, but there's a lot of different factors that you sometimes can't account for in lane swaps that you have to shot call on the fly. So in any case, I'm just saying, like, unless Hanser is that guy, and I don't think he is, just from what we know about Gravity, how Gravity was working, and people were saying, I heard that Bunny Fufu was doing a lot of the shot calling. They really haven't addressed that aspect of it.
Loco,
What
I
up?
realize you're going to tell us. That's why I've avoided. Actually, I have avoided a lot of TSM questions because I actually think the answer would be boring because it would all just be like, Reginald is one of the best people I have ever met. Yes, I think actually Santorin was a fantastic jungler. Oh,
No,
yes, and Lustboy never had any problems. He was always a great team. So as a result, I don't ask what I think are going to be crap questions.
Okay, well, I think what is it?
So here's the question I have.
Okay, sure.
So here's the question I have. Okay, do you actually think Bjergsen was a world-class shot caller?
Okay. Let's back up about like TSM questions first.
Okay, come on then, unburden yourself, my young boy. Let us have it.
All right. I realized that I've been very pro TSM on the show, and
Just a bit, just a tad.
okay, and even when I'm off TSM, like, cause in the end, like TSM was a good org and the players were good people, and most of the fault did fall to me. That's why I am pro TSM. It's not like
it was all just your fault. Everyone in the team was a wonderful player, so good at their roles, and you just fucked the whole thing up. That's kind of weird.
I was in the position of most responsibility, and ultimately, like, if I succeeded, that's why I felt so good about myself in spring and summer, summer and spring, because I felt like I did well, and in summer I definitely did do really well in terms of coaching. That's why I was hella egotistical, and that's why I was hella happy and confident, because a head coach has a lot of responsibility in terms of if the team does well or team does bad. And because we did bad in summer and in a lot of the international event, that's why I don't feel like, oh, I had the wrong players, I could not have made this work. I had the right players. I was the one that couldn't make it work. And that's why I am pro TSM, because I see my faults, and if I did things differently, like, the players I had, I could have still made it work and still, like, had a really good team.
I'm pretty sure fucking Coma himself couldn't have taken over TSM and gotten him out of Group D at Worlds.
At the point where we were, Goma probably couldn't have, but if Goma worked with them for a year and a half and
then what would he magically do to them?
Well, at first, I mean, I guess we can talk about it, whatever. I felt like at Group D at Worlds, like, I don't think it was possible. It was possible, but it would have been very, very hard for us to be like, okay, let's pull us all up by the bootstraps and let's go do it. At the time, team was really severed.
Okay.
Well, and the thing is that kind of plays into this even further is we can talk about Group D at Worlds, but frankly, I disagree with you. I think that even if Coma had a year and a half, that particular group of players was not ever going to really do much there. And you guys were thrown a giant bone by LGD deciding to be absolutely
That was the best case scenario.
It was the best case scenario for you.
And then Origin's helping beat KT for you and stuff. That's never going to happen again.
Yeah.
Like a player like Thorin, like, if you tweak some of it, like, if someone is able to, like, just turn the switch on for Thorin and change his mindset, he's gonna be a fucking world-class player. I'm not even. I was saying
he's not. He's not. Look, man, I did a lot of research at Worlds about Santorin and looking at his play throughout the summer split and his statistics. And my God, that guy is the most risk-averse jungler I've ever seen. He will never make a fucking play. He just sits there on his 10 KDA doing fucking nothing.
That's the thing, though. Thorin has really good mechanics. He has really good game knowledge, but he couldn't turn that mentality on about these are the right risks, and I have to take risks to get ahead. And a good jungler knows which risk to take, which lanes to.
That's the entire point of the position, Loco. He's not a good jungler.
Maybe he should become
a bad jungler.
He should become a top laner, Loco.
No, here's the thing, though. I've worked with players before, like Thorin, who had really good mechanics, and their mentality was shit, and they didn't know how to, like, fucking turn something on or learn a concept. But once they learned the concept, like, they improved leaps and bounds and bounds and bounds and bounds. Like, they fucking improved in ways like I thought they couldn't. And a really good example of that is Mad Life. Like, Mad Life, when I started working with him, he was mechanically really, 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 really good. But for him, he didn't understand vision control at all, and he didn't understand things that you can do as a duo, because he played a lot of normal games and he played with bad ADs. Once, he was taught stuff about, okay, if you do this at certain timings, and if two people do this at certain timings, you can do this. And then he did things that I taught him that, and then he did things that went beyond what I taught him. Like, a switch turned on in Mad Life, and then he turned into a player that I never thought Mad Life could be. Mad Life was a mechanical god, but he didn't have game knowledge, and he didn't know what you could do as duos. And then once that switch was turned on, he was a better player than me, and he became one of the best players in the world, and he learned in a different way once he saw what was possible.
Plus, like you said, adversity makes you better. He had the Loco training weights on, and then when he got rid of them, he went full Rock Lee. Okay,
maybe Mad Life was a special case, but I also felt the same way about Thorin.
Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, so first of all, when you keep saying that, so mechanically good, how good are we talking here? If you had to rate his mechanics on a scale of 1 to 10, and Faker's 10, and 1 is, well, let's not go into that, but where would it be, 1 to 10?
9 to 9.5.
Jesus Christ. Okay, well, what flavor Kool-Aid was it? Was it like a purple one or the green one?
You also said that Glebe was going to be like a super good player too, so...
I genuinely believe that in Glebe too. I was wrong about it.
I know. I know. I just look, man. I'm not talking about his mechanics. I just think that the way he plays the jungle position is really poor. Just,
It was the same for Mad Life. Like the way he fundamentally plays support was completely wrong. He didn't account for ADs and things he could do as two people.
Santorin had 9.5
Loco. Most of the time, it's not Mad Life. Mad Life is an outlier. Most of the time, when players can't figure out how to play the position properly, they just get cut, and that's the end, and we never see them again.
Okay.
If Santorin
There's not a magic key that unlocks every player.
If he had 9.5 out of 10 mechanics, okay, let's say his understanding of timing isn't so good, or where opportunities are, or risk reward, like he's being too risk averse because he doesn't understand when he should take positive risks. Let's say all that's true. If he had 9.5 out of 10 mechanics, he'd be making godlike plays the times he did make plays. So it would show up in the game, surely.
In summer he declined, even in mechanics I admit, but in spring in terms of mechanics I thought he was really.
How do you decline in mechanics?
So here's
you get focused on something else. Like a lot of people decline in mechanics. What do you mean? How do you decline in mechanics? It happens to all players everywhere in the world.
Not like that. He only played 2 splits, for fuck's sake. You're making out like he played like 7 years. Then in the 7th year, he only played 2 splits and then he just went to shit.
You don't think there's players that go from being a really, really good player one split and then drop off like tremendously the next split?
Usually not that the mechanics go completely to shit if they were supposedly as world class as you were implying.
I feel like a lot of players, like mechanics and knowledge go really, really hand in hand. Like you have good mechanics because you can predict what's gonna happen, and you look like a fucking god because you react to something, or like mechanics and knowledge go hand in hand.
No offense, but you're arguing against your own case here, because if he had super good mechanics, you've just said that he'd have really good knowledge of where to go and what to do. So that's what he didn't have.
No, I mean,
so you've almost made the case against yourself.
In mechanics, and when I talked about knowledge, in skirmishes, it means like, okay, I know he's gonna use this skill at this timing because it makes the most sense, and then so I'm gonna try to dodge it, and I'm gonna try to counter it with this way. I'm gonna try to shoot my skill shot this way because people usually dodge to this way. Or if I push up against him here and he puts him against a wall, I can shoot the skill shot where it's undodgeable. Like those are the things that make up mechanics and knowledge, and they go hand in hand. I don't mean like overall game knowledge. I mean like skirmish knowledges and playing it out in your head beforehand.
So who has better mechanics, Rush or Santorin at his prime?
I would say Rush, because Rush is like 9 or 9.5.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's
how big is this gap here?
That is the point that I wanted to bring up. Was for me, Rush is the guy that we should be talking about when it comes to any jungler mechanics.
Loco, if junglers, why didn't Santorin just like wreck the Korean ladder then with these 9.5 mechanics? You know, Rush gets to like number one spot and wrecks like Faker in fucking solo queue games.
It's after his decline though, like Santorin, like he did decline.
Oh, that's the problem there. If he'd have come in the spring, he'd have just bodied. He'd been the only foreigner at number 1 on solo queue rank.
Now you're just making assumptions, but I do think Santorin was. Really,
it's weird that, isn't it? Your assumptions that he would have been one of fucking world class jungler with 9.5 out of 10 mechanics.
I'm saying Santorin, if he was able to understand risk versus reward, and taking the right risk, and if he actually understood that and then he developed himself in that way, he would have been a way better player than people give him credit for.
You could do this with like any sports. First of all, the main problem we're having here, Loco, is that we don't accept the premise that you have the 9.5 mechanics. But even if we did accept it, you can go through all of sports history. Like, Terrell Owens, if he was like a better teammate and played within the team concept, would be one of the best players of all time. Instead, he didn't win a lot because he was a super selfish player. You could do it with every player. Fucking Donald would be some god of all time. He only won 1 tournament ever.
I mean, when we talk about mechanics or like physical ability, look at a quarterback like Jay Cutler, who has an arm like a fucking cannon, but he's just not that smart as a quarterback. So his physical ability is hampered by his inability to understand how to play football to the maximum possible degree. Mm-hmm. And personally, I would rather have somebody who understands the game, because if we're talking about junglers right now, where would we rate Bengi on the fucking mechanics scale? Like 6.5, 7?
7 to 8, I would say.
All right, okay, 7.
Bit generous, okay.
2-time world champion. I'd much rather have Bengi, who knows where the fuck to be and what to do on the map.
Of course, it's way better to be well balanced, and Santorin had a fatal flaw in him. And whenever it comes to talking to TSM players, I agree I might be a bit biased, or it's pretty clear that I am biased, but I feel like I failed as a coach, and I could have changed some of it. Because, like, for me, like, I saw potential in players I guess maybe you guys didn't see, because I worked with them personally, and I saw also the best of them, and I guess I ignored the worst of it.
Dude, he wasn't even the best in NA. Forget the fucking world. He was in a league that had like, think of some of the people at jungle. Fucking High was playing jungle for God's sake. A rookie jungler. Okay. Anyway, can we continue on? That whole digression came from talking about Svenskeren.
Okay.
So, what did you actually think of Svenskeren as a player, though, Monty? Oh no, wait a second. I know where we've gone. Wrong here. Loco digressed the whole thing when we asked him about the shot calling. Does Bjergsen have world-class shot calling?
Not really. Compared to someone like High, compared to someone like Cloud Templar, compared to someone like Marin, probably not. Or definitely not, actually.
Definitely not. But I don't think he should have to do that. That's the whole thing. That's the point that I'm making. Is I'm not saying that TSM is going to be a bad team by any means. I think that they've assembled a pretty solid group of players in order to compete in the NALCS. But it doesn't. For me, if I was TSM going into this, and perhaps I don't know what negotiations they made with players. Perhaps there weren't any of these shot callers available to them. I don't know. But if I was TSM, my number one goal when I cut every player who's not Bjergsen, number one priority, find a shot caller so Bjergsen doesn't have to think about it anymore and you can actually use him better. Because he shouldn't have to deal with that shit at all. He should just fucking be Bjergsen, be the star player, and not have to split his brain trying to manage the game at the same time.
See, that's what's confusing to me, actually. Think of who's available. So they could have had another Amne be the shot caller top lane. They could have had Bonnie Fufu as a support be a shot caller. Instead, they've gone for loads of mechanically good players, and they've never fixed that one problem.
Monty, when was the last time you interacted with H2K for like cussing, not shot calling?
Directly before the World Championship?
Because I was under the impression that Kasing's really communicative.
No, he is. I'm just saying that and maybe he would be more. My from observing H2K Scrim in person, Odo Amne is a very dominant voice in that team. I can tell you that.
Okay.
It's not like nobody else is saying anything. I'm just saying that the majority of the communication is done by Odo Amne. Okay, and maybe with more room, perhaps Odo Amne dominates that, and Kasing would like to participate more. Perhaps I don't know the dynamic of the team well enough to say that. Okay. That's just what I observed.
Okay, I think, I agree with you guys on the model where jungle and support should shot call and carry should play like carry. Like, jungle and support shot calling makes more sense. If you play solo queue, like, naturally as mid, what you want to do is you want to do big damage in team fight. Like, that's just, like, natural way of playing mid. If you play AD, you want to get as much gold as possible, and that's, like, the AD dream. You want to do maximum damage in team fights, you want to be like the hero. If you're top, you want to initiate team fights, you want to make split push plays. Like, these are natural ways to play those lanes. For jungle and support, you want to snowball lanes. Like, there's also the carry way of playing jungle, but most junglers, like, their dream or their, I guess, likely scenario to play is snowballing lanes and getting the team at right places, and they're very objective focused, because as a jungler, like, alone, you can't do much. It's about doing things as a team. And support, even more so. Like, the support dream is winning as a team, doing things as a team, roaming with the jungler. So it's pretty apparent, like, jungle and support shot calling is the best. And I think that's what TSM had in mind. Like, Siben seems I never got to interact with Svenskeren, but he seems like from the announcement video that he doesn't want to just sit around. Like, he actually wants to make plays, he wants to lead the team, and he wants to take control of early game. And from Kasing, from the research I did on him, he seemed really communicative. And when he joined SHT, Super Hot Crew, and when he joined H2K, like, the team changed and they were more cohesive and they did things together as a team. So I imagine him to be a communicative player. Your experience with him might have been different with H2K, and you might be right. My research might be wrong, and you might be right. But that's how I feel about Kasing and Sven, and I think TSM has the same mindset too, that those two will be shot callers.
That's what I don't understand, though, is that
Svenskeren, Kasing I can see more of. My experience with Svenskeren, he's a very... He loves making plays, absolutely, and he is very good in the early game, and we've seen that with SK, but he is a very intuitive style jungler. I would liken him more to somebody like Cacao than somebody like Danby, right? He's not he's not calculated. It's about his gut and his intuition.
What confuses me in general about the time you were in TSM, though, is that there was never any move made to try and do this. Take the shot calling away from Bjergsen, get a player who can shot call. So, for example, One of the reasons why you could it in that lineup is Lost Boy doesn't speak super good English, so he can't do it. The jungler Santorin, who we already see has his own issues there. What I don't get is, bearing in mind, it's not like you just coached one split. You coached 3 splits, and they actually had Bjergsen shot calling for 4 splits. So to me, after Season 4 Worlds, that's the time where you get a jungler who can shot call, or you change support player and get a support player who can shot call. I mean, I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but I know that Mithy, after Season 4, wanted to join TSM. I mean, I'm not going to throw it under the bus, but supposedly one of the reasons why he couldn't join, was racism. Isn't that fucking grand, Monty? That's a good one, eh? They don't recruit people who've ever had any history of being banned for racism. Great one. Yeah, anyway. So why didn't you just recruit a jungler or a support who could shot call and take it, and then Bjergsen would be like unleashed, wouldn't he? Is there a reason for thinking it would work?
Isn't after Season 4 was after Simpson White won, right?
Yep.
Well, I mean, we weren't going to replace Lost Boy, and that wasn't a discussion that came up because Lost Boy played really well during
summer. So you're laughing right now. Like, I'm not saying that to be harsh, right? But seriously, yeah. I don't understand where like with Lost Boy, you always had a ceiling you were going to hit. He's never going to be able to shot call, and he's never going to get super good at communication. Dude, even right now, he doesn't have really good English. He has like okay English.
Yeah.
You know, it's never going to get super good. It's never going to be like Rush's, you know. Think about how quickly his English improves. Mm-hmm. But was that never a problem in TSM? That's essentially, I can boil it down like that. I never thought TSM was a bad team. I always thought you had an obvious ceiling. And the ceiling was, you had Dyrus, who was going to play the same way forever. You had Bjergsen super good, but he's shackled by shot calling. You can't do anything from support because the guy's a Korean guy who only speaks a bit of English. Wild Turtle's fucking Wild Turtle, and then you brought in Santorin. So it's like, I don't know what you were hoping for. Like, I don't know what you think you did wrong as a coach, because I don't know what the best scenario was from this lineup, man.
Okay, well, one thing that we disagreed were me from a year ago, if like I went on time machine and then came here and then did the show with you and then you just said that would disagree on is Lost Boy shot calling. Is at the time we had the belief that Lost Boy could shot call, and it feels weird like talking about Lost Boy this way, but I honestly really truly believe Lost Boy would shot call, and his English being bad doesn't really fucking matter. Like if you can say combat now, we're gonna dive now. That's all you need to be able to say. And then if you say it firm enough, and if you're 100% sure about your play, and you constantly show it through practice, whenever Lost Boy says come bot, and then if you do come bot and we make the dive play, most of the time it works, and then we're able to snowball the game. And if Lost Boy, like, you can just say stuff like come dragon, control here, and ping.
Sure.
Like, you don't need good English to shot call. You need the right mindset, and you need the leadership, and you need people to believe in you. And Lost Boy never became like super vocal, and it's just his personality. Like, some people are quiet, some people are more reserved, some people are shy, some people have a hard time commanding other people. Like, it is a personality flaw if that person is a shot caller. And Lost Boy wasn't able to shot call because he was, at the end of it, he wasn't able to be vocal enough. He was great in terms of being able to, like, mechanically, like during summer and during spring, he was really great. As a teammate, he was really great. And so outside of the team, like, outside of the in-game, like being able to help with analyst work or thinking about what's good or how we should play stuff, he was good. And when he typed stuff out, like, he would type out long paragraphs that would be super fucking helpful to the team about how we should do vision control, how we should do bottom dive, but he wasn't able to be vocal in-game. That's why he wasn't able to be a shot caller.
So what's funny is, I've seen this before, Loco. The old TSM that Reginald played for was 1 dominant voice and 4 passive personalities. So you created the same team again. You had 4 people who don't want to have any say in it. And in fact, in theory, just want to be someone else to tell them what to do. And then the one guy who's the main voice is the mid laner. Mm-hmm. Did you really think that? Okay, I'm not saying this like obviously it didn't work overall, but did you really think like Bjergsen was just going to keep getting better and better as a shot caller? 'Cause it seems to me like he kind of plateaued at that. He got decent, and then it never really changed. He just stayed like the same level to me.
So around what time?
Like, to me, after like Season 4 Worlds, I don't see that much difference between his shot calling then and now.
After Season 4 Worlds, like, we were on, this is before like Lost Boy, like at that point Lost Boy was in America for what, like 2 months, 3 months, or maybe like, and then so we were like, okay, Lost Boy, as he becomes more integrated, as he becomes more vocal, he will be able to shot call. So we thought Lost was gonna shot call for spring and summer. That was our belief. And we thought Santorin would be vocal too. We never worked with Santorin before. Our experience with Santorin was scrimming against him in Coast, and we were like, holy shit, this guy's good.
So, okay, this
That's
actually brings the whole discussion back to a great point that I wanted to make, which is what I like about this team, the fact it's a super team, is exactly that fact. TSM, who in theory are the best org in the West, as in they have the most money, the most exposure, everyone wants to play for them in theory, so in theory they should have the pick of everyone. I always felt like for some weird reason, TSM always, it's almost like Reginald bought into that whole hype of like he's the guy who picks out the secret jewel in the rough and he's going to get all these guys who've never succeeded, then he's going to make them succeed. Because I don't understand why a team like TSM is going and getting fucking challenger junglers like Santorin. When you're TSM, you can just get the best player at that position, put him on your team, and have an awesome team over instantly, you know. That's what I like about this team. This team literally looks like someone did that. They went out and said, right, what's the best support we can get for this team? Right, this one, yep, get him. Oh, what's the best jungler we can get? Yep, get him. And look, as a result, the team looks fucking awesome on paper.
I think there's value in picking up players that haven't gotten to prove themselves, that are challenger players, that are really, really fucking hungry to be somebody. And Andy believed in that, and it succeeded in terms of Bjergsen. It didn't succeed that well in terms of Thorin. So, I mean, it's a philosophy difference. I don't think there's one correct way to do it.
I think you're absolutely right. That's good. That's a great concept. The problem is, it means that when after the fact you're like, but it turns out like Santorin was kind of quieter than we thought. Well, there you go. That's the price of doing that sort of risk.
Yeah,
I've always thought.
Sometimes you get Bjergsen and it's like excellent. Yeah. Sometimes you get Santorin and it's pretty meh.
Or you get Glebe randomly.
Okay.
I mean.
Anyway. You do. You sometimes get Glebe, Loco. Sometimes you get Glebe. That's a new meme.
Glebe.
Sometimes you get Glebe. Listen, we've all had Glebe before. We've all woken up, thought, oh, fuck, I've got Glebe. I'm only going to fuck myself up. And what's that? Shot at the doctors or something that'll clear up in a week?
Glebe wasn't even part of the conversation, and I was never in the process of picking up Glebe, and it just feels like randomly shitting on him.
No one's randomly shitting on him. He's not a good player, and he went off.
We're not talking. We were talking about selections that had been made by TSM.
Reginald's the one who picked Glebe. You.
That's exactly what we were talking about.
All right. I mean, okay.
Yes. That's the biggest fucking cop-out TSM have given, you know. They always say that about Glebe. Oh, no, it's not our fault. It just turned out that Glebe was like a bit unstable as a person. Yes, that... Every player, you have to accept the consequences. That's not like a get out of jail free card. That's probably why you shouldn't get guys who've never been in LCS, have never been put under pressure, have never tried. If you're the biggest team in the world, Loco. Okay, so in sports that I follow, if I watch like the Lakers in basketball or I watch like a Real Madrid in football, they don't recruit some fucking unknown guy who's never played in the league and then hope he's awesome. What they do is they let other teams get players like that, and then once that player turns out to be really good, they go with their massive checkbook and just buy him, and there's no risk involved, you know. You go, this guy's fucking amazing. Let's just get him on the team. Problem solved. You don't have to get Glebe.
No. I agree. Like, League is more like that, and it probably already developed to a point it was like that when TSM picked up Glebe. But there was definitely a time in the League where solo queue players weren't that different from actual players playing, and the level of play there actually wasn't that big of a difference. And having someone new and having someone really hungry was a bonus more so than like a deterrent.
Okay.
I do agree with Glebe being not so great of a pickup, but there was a point where picking up challenger players definitely had more merits and it was a risk worth taking. Yes, we are beyond that point. Yes, League of Legends developed enough where there's players that are proven, where a team like TSM could potentially pick up anyone they want.
I have a concern about Svenskeren though. I actually think as a player, I think he's amazing. I think he's definitely one of the best Western junglers we've had in many years. He's super sick individual player. If you have the right team around him, could probably be really successful. But I have massive concerns about him being in a team with Bjergsen and Doublelift. I think, for me, I think that's one ego too many. Like, everyone's going to... Like, you're probably going to tell me now, no, things I've heard about him, he's a really good guy who wants to work for the team. All that fight... Like, you should just write fucking public relations statements, mate. I'm talking real opinions here. Everything I've heard about Svenskeren, all the teams he's been on, is like, yeah, he's a super sick player, he's really good. If things are going well, it goes well in the team. But he's the sort of person where when things are going badly, people say he's a massive whiner and he has ego issues where he wants to play the game a certain way. It has to be his way.
I mean, I already made my point about Svenskeren. How he does on the team and how he's able to balance Bjergsen and Doublelift and Hunter is going to be like the breaking point of the team. He's going to be the person that gets to decide the destiny of TSM.
And also, that's a great line right there. He will be the one who will decide the destiny of TSM.
When
do you
everything
guys
hangs
disagree?
in the balance.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you guys disagree? Do you guys disagree? Don't you-
Svenskeren, you were supposed to be the chosen one. Okay, anyway. Also, as an aside, I also think it's even slightly more dangerous that he's on a team with another guy with a massive ego who speaks the same native language as him. I've always thought it was actually a kind of grace from God himself that some of these players don't speak the same first home language, because then you can't insult someone quite as badly or get into as much of an argument. You're kind of limited by like second language English to some degree, you know? So all I'm saying is if you ever see anyone going off in team chat in Danish, that's the end of TSM. That's the meltdown phase at that point. And no one else will even know what they're talking about. No one will be able to be like, whoa, calm down, man. They'll just be like, oh, they're having a chat about what they were going to do later. Meanwhile, they're just going off on each other. Like,
Alright.
so
Well, can I get you guys' opinion on what is it, Svenskeren being? You guys don't have to call it like the destiny decider of TSM, but like him being the most important person in terms of whether TSM's going to do well or not.
I mean, I'll already tell you to a degree he is, in as much as since he's the jungler, he decides whether the time bomb of Doublelift remains dormant like a mine from World War II in like the east end of London from or whether whether that bomb will be exploded due to lack of ganks and him getting wrecked in bot lane. So already that factor alone could determine the fate of TSM, I feel.
Okay. Monty, you?
I actually
Question is,
think
Monty, is Svenskeren the destiny decider of TSM?
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that quite as much. I think that again, I go back to the shot calling, and I think that if Kasing or somebody like that can step up into some solid late game shot calling, because if we think about TSM historically and the work that you did, it was frequently, it wasn't lane swaps, it wasn't the laning phase except for Turtle, but the laning phase generally went okay, and you guys were able to take some leads out of lane swaps. I thought your lane swapping was generally good, even going into the World Championship and stuff like that. And you guys were showing that you could get leads early in the game.
Thank you.
It's been about the late game shot calling, right? And so I keep going back to that. And again, it's going to be almost an entirely new team. But
Yeah.
like I said, with the players that have been selected, I am a bit skeptical. So if Kasing or somebody else is going to have to step up, because Bjergsen's never going to be a great shot caller.
Oh.
Doublelift is never going to be a great shot caller. And in fact, in my opinion of having worked with Doublelift, one of Doublelift's biggest problems as a player is that when things start to when it's a really tough situation, when a game is really on the line or stress starts to rise in a team environment, Doublelift will start shot calling. That's when he starts to shot call more. And it really is quite not good. So that's
I can summarize Doublelift's whole life problems. I think of all the problems he's had in his life, even the ones that were nothing to do with the game. All problems in Doublelift's life all begin when his mouth opens and words start to come out. Up until
so
that
true.
point, it's all going great. Everyone loves him. He's a great guy. His skills are there.
And also, even in this whole situation with the TSM CLG drama or whatever, it's like when he the last time, like, he just says the worst possible shit. And he can't shut his mouth when he just needs to stay silent. And that is true about this whole drama stuff, and that's also true, in my opinion, of him as a player. And I think he came off one of the best seasons of his entire career. I think he was MVP candidate for the last season of the LCS. I thought he did really well. But, yeah. So that's another issue, and that just ties into the whole shot calling thing.
So for the late game shot calling, I think late game shot calling is different from mid and early game, because mid and early game,
Sure.
like as a mid,
Yeah, because it takes place at the end of the game. I like the way he's got all like salty now. He just does this like little. He rolls his eyes, the loco eye roll. Okay, keep going then.
like early and mid game, it's really up to jungle and support, because as like top, mid, and AD, you're not gonna fucking go to a different lane, you know? Like as an AD, you're not gonna shot call and be like, okay, I'm gonna go top. I mean, there are some times where you go top and you push the turret down, but mostly it's jungle and support. Like they're the ones moving around, like they're the ones like moving the resource around, you know? And they're the ones being like, okay, we're gonna control dragon. Oh, we're gonna ward here. We're gonna vision control here. We're gonna pressure this lane. But like late game, it's completely different. Like if your mid laner is the best late game shot caller, there is no deterrent to him shot calling late game. If your mid laner is the best early game and mid game shot caller, there is a deterrent to being like, the mid laner can't fucking call the jungle and the support to make a play top and then call it off because they also move. Like, he's gonna be focused on his own lane. But like late game, like, you're not focused on laning, you're focused on big map movements as 5. So if anyone in TSM can shot call late game, like that, it doesn't only have to be on Kasing and Svenskeren. The question of, is there anyone capable? Maybe not so, but late game shot calling, I don't think has to be just jungle and support.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, I don't think they have picked up somebody who could do that. Maybe somebody hasn't gotten the chance. Maybe somebody will step into that role. I don't know, but that's just. I think that's going to be, in my mind, one of the biggest factors.
Yeah, shot calling. It's gonna make or break the team. They're gonna have either the OMG or the elements problem, or they're gonna be really good. I feel like that's what happens to most super teams. They either break down internally or they're really good.
Okay, so one of the players who's remaining, the only player, is Bjergsen as the mid laner. Did Bjergsen actually have any sort of problems as an individual player in like the last summer split and Worlds? What do you think, Loco? Like, was he at his peak still?
Oh, you mean did he dip
Yeah.
at all, like in terms of skill level?
Do you think him as a player dipped?
I mean, as you said, like as you and Monty said, like we did put the burden of shot calling on Bjergsen, so his team fighting and mid game definitely did suffer. So it's hard to judge. He did dip due to I think his dip was from him having to shot call. The Bjergsen without having to shot call, we haven't gotten to see that for a long ass time, so we'll know. Like it's his time now. If Sven and Kasing actually does shot call and his play improves, then we can clearly say, oh, Bjergsen's play only dipped because of the shot calling.
I actually was really pretty underwhelmed with Bjergsen's performance at the World Championship. I thought his team fighting was not very good. His laning pitch was okay. His team fighting was pretty shaky, though.
His performance did dip, but maybe it is because he had to shot call. We'll find out after IEM, or we'll find out during Spring Split.
Loco.
I mean, IEM is not going to be a realistic test of this TSM roster. They've been together for like a week. I mean, I think it's too much of a burden to put on them right now.
Okay. I mean, like, we'll see how Bjergsen develops when he doesn't have to shot call, but do I agree that his performance dipped? Yeah.
Loco, why did you think that putting Bjergsen on Yasuo in 2 games in the final of NALCS would work?
Oh, because we had problems. I actually talked to Dylan a lot about this. We had problems regarding when Bjergsen didn't shot call and Bjergsen didn't have a champion. He had initiative on, so stuff like Yasuo and Diana. Like, we just played like a different team. When Bjergsen was able to be the one initiating and the one shot calling and one like being like, okay, I'm gonna go and everyone come in with me. Like, the team played much better. That's why we were really focused on Yasuo and Diana.
Okay. I've got a question for you. You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
Okay.
So, in theory, in public, no one knows why CLG removed that guy, Coach Chris. I mean, during the season, because they won an LCS, there was so much hype around him. Articles written, interviews done, like documentaries about him and what a great coach he must be. Do you have any speculation as to why they would remove him as the coach, Loco?
I know the reason, and it's not my place to say.
Okay. Do you know the reason as well, Monty?
I don't know. No.
Can you speculate then? What could you even guess what it could be? Do you think it was because of his coaching?
Idea. No. I don't think it was because of his coaching. They pretty much have said that.
Okay. Right. So, what do you think about the addition of Kasing to TSM, Loco?
I thought I talked about it, but whatever. Really,
a bit,
but
as an actual support player, though.
Okay, from my research, very communicative, and the impact he had by joining Super Hot Crew and H2K was very evident. So, I mean, high hopes.
What about as a support player, though?
As a player, like, do I think he's good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's good. I thought his roam plays were really good, and him and Hjarnan and Odamne were like the reasons why H2K was really relevant. Ryu was so up and down. Like, sometimes Ryu was like really good, sometimes Ryu was bad, and Rulix is Rulix. I'm not gonna comment. I thought Kasing and Hjarnan and Odamne were standouts from H2K in the games I watched.
See, the weird thing is, to me, Hjarnan is just like, okay. Hjarnan's one of those people where we saw this a lot, actually. He just had a beast support who made him look good. So fucking Yellowstar did that to Steelback, dude. A guy who no one gives a crap
But
about.
no, but like when Yellowstar played with Steelback, wasn't it apparent Steelback wasn't like up to par to the rest of the team, and he made mistakes. He didn't do enough
It
damage.
could still
to survive.
survive. It could still be okay.
But, like,
Hyunan's a
which,
better
like-
version, obviously.
Yeah, like I don't feel that way with Yarnan.
He's just a better version. Well, you're going to find out soon, aren't you? Because Hyunan's going to play without Kasing. So we'll find out in the next split of the exciting EU LCS.
Find out on the next episode.
So I reckon that what will happen is, to follow my original analogy, don't get scared when I tell you the analogy there, Loco. This one's vetted because it's about a white person. That Hyanan is like a little spider monkey, a baby spider monkey, who hugs onto the mother spider monkey, who's sort of like the support, who carries him through the jungle, the lane, and then into the game, and that's where he then has his action. Okay, so the problem is he's now lost his mother. Oh, think about that, the cute little spider monkey. He's lost his mother now, Loco, and now he's fucked because a different, probably decrepit old support's going to come along. Hey, here you go, and then he's going to climb on, and they're not going to be swinging as fast. They're going to be susceptible to predators. It's not going to be good for the little spider monkey. Listen, Loco, I don't want to spoil the end of the documentary, but I think the spider monkey dies at the end. Like, it's a very horrific ending, but it's just the way it goes.
So you think Yarnan will fail without Kasing?
I think he'll just go back to being just some run-of-the-mill AD carry who's at the bottom end of the league. I mean, you have to remember, think of the EU LCS AD carries, mate. There's still some pretty good AD carries over there, so he's not going to be competing with the Forgivens of the world when he loses Kasing, in my opinion.
It's hard for me to have an opinion because I only watched H2 games when we had problems roaming, and then someone told me Kasing's really good at it, so you should watch H2K games. So I watched 2 games of H2K, and then in double speed. And then I watched some H2K games at World, so it's hard for me to have an opinion on Yarnan.
Okay, fair enough. What do you think about Kasing as a player, Monty?
I think he's extremely mechanically solid. I think he is a good teammate from my interactions with him. Sometimes I wonder a little bit about his champion pool, but I think that can be improved in time because he's still a relatively new player. I agree with Loco that he's had an immense impact on the teams that he's joined, and he's been there immediately. I think quite highly of him as a support player.
See, I always respected Hyanan, actually, because I don't know if you know the meme in the ULCS, Loco, there was a joke where in an interview they asked him about like how the game had gone, and he just said Kasing as the answer. To me, that's like that's a great answer. It's like, Hyanan, you did really well in this game, you know, your KDA was very good. Kasing. No, but I was asking like, how did you played very well, you know, you actually outperformed again, just Kasing. That is really that should be the correct answer to every single question, you know. So there we go. He's like Hodor, but he just says someone else's name. He says Kasing, and then that's the success. In fact, there we go. Maybe that's who it is. So the last player in the lineup, Locodoco, is a guy called Doublelift. Now here's a guy where his problem.
I heard
is,
about him.
Yeah,
I heard about him.
Yeah,
Basketball interview.
He's just another one of those guys that they were used to be friends with, and he weren't anymore. And then that one never really got patched up properly, did it? But oh well.
With me and Double.
Yeah.
We actually patched up a lot during summer, and then
at least that's what you say.
Well, I mean, me and him talk separately on Skype, and in summer and spring, like I barely talk to anyone outside of our own team on Skype, like especially during my free time, like maybe at LCS, like talking to people, but a lot of people say Doublelift is the reason why me and TSM separated ways, but that wasn't true at all. I mean, we should talk about Doublelift as a player, not me and Doublelift relationship.
Go ahead.
Okay. I think Doublelift as a player improved so much as a carry in the last 2 splits. I think 3 points of being a really good carry is 1, you need to learn how to get a gold lead by yourself. Like, so that naturally comes from laning well. If you lane well, then you know how to get a gold lead. And then 2, you need to learn how to snowball that gold lead by, if you're ahead in lane, how to dive that person, or how to force that person to have a bad back, or how to transition your own gold lead into the team's gold lead by pushing in and then going to another lane. Like, that's the second factor of being a really good carry. And then Doublelift was really good at number 1. Doublelift was not so good at number 2, but he improved that naturally over 2 years. And then the third one is being responsible with your gold lead. If you have a gold lead, like, you are a huge part of the team. If you have 10k gold in terms of items and you die, then you lose 10k gold from your global lead. If your team was 5k ahead, that's actually a lot. Like, in 20-minute games, if your team is 5k gold ahead, that is a huge amount of gold. But if you die and you're holding on to, say, like 4k or 3k gold lead, the gold lead is gone, and also one person of the team is gone too. So if you trade yourself with like a support or a jungler as a carry, then you're in a terrible place. And Doublelift was really bad at being responsible with the gold. Like he would die in side lanes. He would die in weird ways in team fights. So, I mean, Doublelift improved tremendously on that, and I think he's a way better player than he was 2 splits ago.
Is Monty still there? Okay, your camera froze a second. Do you have
here.
anything to add about Doublelift, Monty?
How I'm done talking about Doublelift.
Okay, so we'll just move to the next topic then.
Well, Thorin, what's your opinion on Double? Me and Monty said our piece.
The thing with Doublelift I've realised is, and I'm not going to like drop any speak out of school about stuff that's private, but just from knowing him as a person to a limited degree, and then knowing him professionally, and then watching all of his career, like he might be one of the few players I think I've watched almost every pro game they've ever played. I think as a player he's completely plateaued, but because of his flaws as a human, which sounds harsh when you say flaws as a human, but everyone has flaws. But I mean that his specific flaws will always hold him back as a league player. Like to me, unfortunately, he is a player who will always be like the brawn, super physical skill type player, but probably will never have a good mental like grasp on the game. So for me, the only way a player like that can be really successful, as in not just win any LCS, but maybe have like a deep run at Worlds, is you have to put people around him who cover his flaw. So you need people around him who are really smart, or they can tell him when to do stuff, or they can lead the game, and he just has a set role. And then if he has a set role, he can be amazing at it because his raw skills are amazing. So
basically, if he had an English-speaking Pumandu in his prime, he would be one of the world's best player.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's face it. If Aframu didn't have those problems that he often had in playoff type scenarios, if he wasn't so bad under pressure at times, that's I think why that team worked a lot of the time, because Aframu was good at like leading Doublelift, figuring out how to use him. Like the joke I always use the Doublelift is he is like a missile. You just have to like, you're the one who has to figure out where to aim him and when to launch him. You know, if you just let it go off randomly, it won't do any good, will it, with a missile?
Is there any examples in sports where players had like fatal flaw and they recovered that without like life-changing experiences?
Well, if you're just talking about general fatal flaws, yeah, there are people, for example, who are chokers and then they get over that and they become very successful. In terms of this sort of problem, though, where someone's not a cerebral player,
yeah,
for sure there'll be instances, but again, it will usually be like I'm saying. Usually it's like for example, you could have a player who's not that smart in terms of how he plays basketball or something. Let's say like a center guy who's the really tall guy who just stands close to the basket. Well, with that sort of player, the way you're going to make him really good is you need to put him with like an amazing point guard, a guy who knows exactly how to feed the ball to him, and he'll just tell him like, right, in this sort of a scenario, when the defense is on you here, you're going to go to this spot and I'll give you the ball there, and all you're going to do is make a simple shot, you know. So essentially a guy who can take away all the decision making the guy has to do by being so smart. It's like for example, the obvious player, if I could go back in time and recruit a player to play with Doublelift, I would recruit High. Even though High is a weaker player mechanically and has had issues, just putting him on a team with really good Doublelift type players, I think would make the team amazing. Because he could take all that away from them. He could just say, right, you're just going to do this simple thing now. I'll tell you when to do the next thing. I'll tell you when to group with us. I'll tell you which target to attack. And I think that would take a lot of the potential trouble that someone like Doublelift gets into away from them. What do you think?
Okay. I think that's a good, I agree with what you said.
And I think that's part of the problem that they've had in CLG, actually. Like the whole topic, I mean, I made a video about this, but to me, one of the whole problems that Doublelift's had his whole career is that in the LCS era of CLG, when they got rid of all the old players, they got rid of Chauster, they got rid of Hotshot GG, they got rid of Big Fat LP, there was no one in the team who had like a really strong personality who would tell Doublelift, like, this is how we're going to play, here's what we're going to do. They were all super passive personalities as well. Like Link's the sort of guy who's super passive aggressive, will never like avoids confrontation. Dexter was like a brand new player. He hadn't even played in America very much. He's used to playing with a mid laner that literally used to tell him exactly when to come. His top laners famously in CLG were never like players who were very confident anyway. So you look at it, basically the only person he had was Aframu, and then it seems to me like whenever Aframu himself had individual problems, like maybe that just cut off the part of his brain where he could do the other stuff in the game, you know.
Yeah, team runs into problems when the shot caller is either top, mid, or AD, and they're not that smart and they're just really stubborn and they have a huge voice. Like I think that's a common problem in not just CLG but like a lot of teams.
That's why when you hear those stories that at the peak of World Elite, where Zhao was doing some of the shot calling, that just makes that guy a fucking god. Because he was the best player at his position, one of the best in the world, and he was shot calling. So if you could do that from AD carry, you'd regard it in my book.
And also in Season 2, like, it was more favorable for ADs to shot call. And part-time in Season 3, mid shot calling was so favorable because stuff like Zed and Ari, you would be the one moving around and
exactly.
you would be Riot moved to a meta where support and jungle shot calling makes the more sense, and it's the best for almost every team.
That's basically why, on the Dexter example I gave, that's why it worked for Dexter when he was in Lemon Dogs. Because what happened was, Nukeduck was a player who loved to play shit like Zed, and so whenever he was playing that, he was going to be the carry. So he would essentially shot call just by telling people, like, right, I'm going to come to your lane and take all the farm now. Like, that's like what, and then he'd tell you, right, come to my lane and we'll get a kill on this guy. So it made sense then. The problem with Doublelift is, though, the idea, they always present it in CLG, and Doublelift himself always presents it like, right, every season, next split's going to be better. You know, I've improved now. Now I trust all my teammates. Now I'm starting to understand the game more. I mean, he said that for like 6 splits now. I don't think it's ever going to change. I mean, he's not someone where he's a young player who hasn't played the game much. We've seen everything we're going to see from Doublelift. There's nothing left for Doublelift to show us. I mean, mate, here's all you need to know about the mental capacity of Doublelift. By the way, love you. Beautiful human, but as a mental person in the world, I don't mean a mental person, I mean just mentally as a person in the world, I can't go calling TSM AD carries, those sorts of things anymore, Monty. I've realised it's not good for my career. So, but as a mentally as a person in the world, one of the problems Doublelift has is, think about just everyday life, not even the pressure of a game. So someone says to him, you know, on his stream, like, you know, why did you leave CLG or whatever? And he says, well, they kicked me at 2 a.m. And then CLG's like, well, no, we kicked you at like 11 p.m. And he's like, well, 2, 11, whatever, it's the same thing. It's like, that's your own life from a week ago. What, you don't even remember your own life? Like, and then someone says to him, like, you know, it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to be signing Kasing as the support. So remember, your one job, don't say Kasing's name on stream. Sure thing, boss. Got it. And he's just like, Kasing, where are you, Kasing? Kasing, no, wait. Not Kasing. Like, that's one of the all-time dumbest saves I've ever seen. I mean, I made the joke ages ago about his poker face. That is just terrible. He can't lie for shit, dude.
Oh, what is it? Off topic of like people's flaw coming out in games. I think
Okay.
I think it's really not like good to look at, but it's really interesting that gaming is an expression of yourself. It's probably
exactly.
it's not the purest form of expression of yourself, but if you have certain problems in game, or if you have certain like traits in game that's really good, like it probably reflects onto your own life. Like if you choke under pressure in game, maybe you are bad at choking under pressure, or if you're bad at multitasking, or if you're bad at, I mean, not that directly, but a lot of the flaws I see in people in game, like I also see in real life, and a lot of the pros they have in game, I also see out of life too. And I think it's something really interesting. Like just think of your friends that play video games. I guess if they're not pros, then it's hard to tell, but like a lot of the pros I'm friends with, like in game and out of game, it really lines up.
So would you say in your life there was like an equivalent in your personality and the way you behaved to when you would do the loco leaps in game?
Yeah, very definitely. Like, I mean, I had a really good childhood. I had a really good like teenage years. My dad was really successful. I got to live in a lot of country. I had a lot of allowance. I had a credit card since I was 14. I was spoiled.
Jesus, I think that explains everything. No need to be said, Loco. We understand, son. We understand.
And then with it in game, I was really good in lane, and I got ahead a lot because I had a good support, and I was spoiled. And what I said, I was irresponsible with my gold lead, and I was irresponsible with the money and the opportunities given. I think that does align well.
He took it the other way, Monty, but in a brilliant way. He explained that because he grew up with a credit card, just like charging stuff on his card, then he was irresponsible with gold, a virtual currency in a video game, not even real like money. Like, that's amazing. You got to something good there, Loco. You actually reverse engineered something good out of that.
No, well, I'm basically saying like I didn't think about like how I got this lead or how I achieved something, and then I just took it for granted, and I was like, it's always gonna be this way. I'm always gonna be ahead, and truth is it's not. Like you have to work for it, and you have to be responsible for like the lead you have. I think that applies in game and out of game.
It's true. So, okay, that was about Doublelift. So Monty, what is your take on the whole team of TSM? Like if they were to keep this line, if they kept it for the split, would this be like the best NALCS lineup, do you think?
I think it's way too early to tell about that. Like I said, there are too many unknown factors when it comes to shot calling right now, and as well as the performance of the players. Again, it's been, you know, a lot of the resource allocation might be somewhat. I don't think it's as difficult as other people have said, but it might be somewhat difficult between Bjergsen and Doublelift. I think that there's no way to know right now. And there's no way to know how the game's going to be balanced around specific player strengths. I think if we end up in another meta where carry top laners are super important, then maybe TSM won't be that strong because they have Haunter. So
Hunter plays top pretty
Maybe.
well. His Echo and Riven were really good. They didn't play it a lot, and
Yeah.
I'm not.
But
I
if
know
you need to
when
get your top laner ahead and give them a lot of gold to get items, that's never going to happen on that team.
I don't think there will be problems between Doublelift and Bjergsen because they're both people that respect skill a lot, and both Doublelift and Bjergsen are really, really skillful. Like as I said before, I think if any problems comes, it's gonna be between jungle and anyone. Because I mean, that team, the jungle role is so important.
I mean, and when you ask the other question you have to ask, Thorin, is like, I think they could be a number one team in NA, but I also don't know the rosters of many of the teams or the rosters haven't even been finalized. So, who knows, really?
Well, I mean, to be fair, you don't need to actually know the roster of a team to make predictions. Loco predicted that TSM would come number one when they had Glebe. Then he brought in MLG, IEM, OGN champion Lost Boy, and then we had to somehow maintain that bet as though it was like a legitimate bet, you know.
I altered the bet, prayed I don't alter it any further.
What a lame ass fucking quote that is. at least it was on point. You got it accurately out there, Loco. Well played. So okay, after TSM, we had another really exciting team announced, which is the NRG lineup. No, not RNG, Monty. Your team won't be the best in LCS with those initials. It's NRG. It's a different sort of a mix-up of them. So NRG was the team that was formerly Coast, but the owner of Sacramento Kings is somehow involved with this group that's bought the team. Well, they bought the org, technically, and then they didn't buy the team. They just took one guy, Conquan or whatever his name is, over, and then they just put all new players in, thus sparking an epic... Oh, I've just forgotten. Before we go into this drama, we have to finish the TSM thing by asking Loco what he thinks about the drama of Svenskeren saying... He wanted to join TSM, but then twice telling H2K, I want to be in H2K, and then, will you join H2K? Yeah, I agree, and then where do I sign? And then he joined TSM anyway. What do you think about all that drama?
These people are video gamers. They're not like athletes, or they're not like, they're not managers. Like in professional sports, you have managers because video gamers don't know how to like talk about contracts or like commit to something, or they have people manage you because if you want to be really, really good at video games, if you want to be really, really good at sports, you dedicate your life to it and you don't grow as a person in other aspects. So I thought it was handled very badly from Svenskaren's side. He should have been more sure. He should have done more research. He should have asked what's out there a lot more. But that's the problem, you know? Like, these are video gamers, not people, like, not businessmen or, like, managers. And I think that's, like, a flaw right now where video game is getting bigger and the structure also needs to get bigger, faster with it, and the scene's growing big, but the structure's not growing fast enough with it.
Let me ask you this question, Loco. Do you think, obviously looking back now, it's easy to see this, but this obviously another way this could have been solved is if Reginald had just decided, you know what, Svenskaren's a really good player, I'll just sign him outright. I won't say like you're going to be a trial player. I'll just say, okay, do you want to join TSM? If you do, join. If you don't, okay, whatever. Are you surprised that he would try to go that trial route? Because I can't think of many players who are of the skill level of Svenskeren who would agree to a trial. Like I actually... Okay. I mean, without giving out any details, I know, for example, that Forgiven has had teams in the past where they asked him to trial, and because that was like an insult to him because he was way better than the players they'd had, he just literally said, okay, I'm not even going to do it then.
Well, Reggie probably wanted the best roster possible, and he could have handled it better, or have someone else talk to him, have someone talk to players for you, like someone like a recruiter or something like that. Like, just tell them, this is who I want this person really, really badly, and I want this person, maybe not so much, but like as I said, the scene is growing and the structure is not growing big enough with it. Andy's job is CEO. Like, I don't in real sports, do CEOs strictly talk to players and be like, these are the conditions? Don't they have someone draft up the contract, go to that player or go to that player's management and talk to them? Like,
well, here's the thing, Loco. You have a general manager. Now, I say that half jokingly because obviously the general manager technically is Lena, but obviously she's not doing that specific role. So I'm not applying that in that sense because we don't have them really in esports. We just have the owners tend to do a lot of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Owners shouldn't be dealing with that stuff. Owners should be doing something else. They should be worrying about the business or like the goal of the company or like, is my structure fine? Like, owners recruiting players is like, it's an oddity. Like, that's the norm in esports, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah, agreed. They should delegate. Monty, what did you think about that whole topic, that whole drama between HK and the DSM?
I think that, I mean, I've said on Twitter, and I saw what you were saying about it, and my opinion is that it's like 90% Svenskerin's fault, and I think that it's just a really shitty thing of him to do to H2K to make a guarantee to them and agree on a deal and then not go through with it. But I don't, from what I understand from reading, like, the legal stuff around it, that there's probably not really much that they can do.
What I don't understand about that whole situation, this is just a really bizarre point I want to make, Monty, which is just in terms of basic game theory, is why both of the owners kept trying to fuck the other owner in terms of making, instead of just saying, here's my case, believe it if you want to, they'd say, here's my case, and here's some evidence as to why the other guy's the scum of the earth and a total liar and everything he's saying is wrong, and here's part of a log, knowing that the other guy has the other part of the log. Just on basic game theory, that guy's going to then release his part of the log. Yeah. Then you're going to go, oh, well, I'll up the ante, I'll release another log, then he's going to release his part of that log. Like, it's all going to come out eventually if you all start the game of releasing logs. So I thought that was dumb as well, because at the end of the day, one of you is going to end up with Svenskeren, so why both muddy each other's names completely? And obviously, I guess in theory, someone wins in the public court of opinion. Like, it looks like Reginald won that one. But
they both did it because both sides thought they were right and both sides thought they were going to end up with
I think that's a bit naive in itself, though. They should have made it a pure business deal and said, right, on this deal, I'm winning out.
But you're asking why did both sides do that? But because both sides thought they were going to be the winner. Both
yeah,
sides
but that's the
they
flaw.
were going to end up with Svenskeren.
They made it like emotional as well, and they wanted to like fuck the other guy over.
But here's the thing: H2K probably couldn't have reasonably thought they were going to end up with Svenskeren, Loco, because you can't. As soon as you get into that situation, that player is not going to want to play for you anymore, right?
No,
Exactly,
didn't the owner think, what is it? By like suing TSM or like by holding them to some legal grounds that they were going to end up with Svenskeren? Is that what H2K was?
I don't know if he really believed it in his heart. I think he was just mad that he got screwed on the deal.
And he wanted damages, probably. What he probably wanted was some sort of buyout from TSM. That's probably the best you could hope for in that situation, because getting Svenskeren at that point is not what you actually want, right? Because then he's just going to be really bitter and not play well.
At that point, if he forcibly held Svenskeren and like somehow forced him to play under his team like through legal means, that would have been a shithole.
No, you can't actually do that. So.
There's also the bigger issue. I made this point in my video, so I'll make it very briefly, which is that one of the reasons why esports shouldn't be held as though it's a real sport with, this is just as big as the NFL. Here's the thing. In the NFL, if you illegally sign someone's player or there's any dispute, they literally will either just agree on it and make a real, like the teams will make an agreement, or that will go to court. And you can take someone to court.
No. In the NFL,
there was a big,
no.
It
there
happens
was something
regarding NBA. Okay, wasn't there
let me tell you.
Deal? Okay, you first.
Yeah, there was about this guy, but in the sports leagues, what happens is that it doesn't go to court; it goes to arbitration, right? Okay. Because they have to solve the problem very quickly, and court battles could drag on for years.
So this is the point I was getting to. Basically, is that basically
in the NFL they have a prescribed process for dealing with that is an accelerated system, so it doesn't go to court; it goes into arbitration. So all the teams are like, "This is how we solve problems; these kind of problems." But yeah, that's how.
But the basic point I was going to make was that's actually the biggest flaw that esports has, which is that essentially 90% of contracts that exist in esports can never be like broken, and then you can force the person to be responsible for that, because no one's actually for example, the H2K guy's never going to actually go to court with TSM, spend a year and a half pursuing this case, pay his lawyer hundreds of thousands of dollars, keep the case going. Meanwhile, having to run a team without sense, he's just going to get over it. He's going to be right. I have to start this season. I have to get a player, and he'll actually have forgotten about it himself in a year from now. It won't be the most pressing thing on his mind. So unfortunately, that aspect of esports is not anywhere near the real world of business. Like, no one's really going to take someone to court and take 2 years to drag the whole thing out, especially because if you really wanted to and you were some super rich team, you can do what you can do in court cases. You can drag the court out even longer. You can get a really good lawyer that can keep making appeals and stuff and just waste someone's time as much as you want. So there was never really going to be any courtroom shit over that. That's just like posturing to say so, I think.
Also, the bigger problem is, where do you even sue them? Because, because he's in Europe, I don't even know where he was planning on taking TSM to court. In America, with American lawyers, I don't know.
I mean, the overall big problem with esports is, like, when we talk, esports is just as big as real sports, or like esports is mainstream now. People quote stuff like salaries or like profit or player numbers. Like, that did get huge, but the structure that should come with it never got big enough with it. Like, I feel like the growth of
It just
esports.
it's happening slowly. It's happening slowly.
Yeah, but compared to the amount of money that's coming into the scene and the amount of viewership that it's getting, it's not happening fast enough.
Well, it's not going to happen fast enough. It's going to have growing pains. That's it.
So, okay, anyway, the team I was going to move on to was Energy. So, when we saw this lineup announced, I know this was like the mild drama was the fact that they didn't keep the other players, and actually all of us have now commented on that thing. So, what do you actually think of the Energy team, Monty? The actual lineup they've got?
I think that on paper it looks good. I think GBM is a good addition. I do wonder a little bit if they have, in the case of Energy, if they have too many more like supportive style players, if that makes sense. Because GBM is not like GBM is a very good player, but GBM would shine better with a more. He needs carries, right? He is a very good defensive style, and he's a very versatile mid laner, and he's a very consistent player, and he's got a large champion pool. But he's not like a superstar level player, right? And Impact, he's not.
GBM's not a superstar.
Wait.
What?
GBM consistent? I completely disagree with GBM being consistent.
I think he has been very consistent in this last year.
I think even on his Jareth, like his Jareth was one of the best, and even with that, like he has some fucking low lows where he gets caught doing God knows what, like doing the old form. Like,
No.
I think it was a game versus CJ. Well, I'm gonna go back and rewatch those games, and we can talk about it later separately. But I don't think GBM is a consistent player. I think he has very high highs, but sometimes like his lows are pretty big.
I don't think so. I think I would say that GBM regularly, because the way he plays the game, and especially the way he plays the laning phase, is he's not a high roaming player. He will just sit by his turret and farm. He delivers good performances usually out of the laning phase, but he also is vulnerable because he plays so far back for the enemy mid laner to do roams on their own, and he's forced into a more reactive position. He's a reactive style of player.
But don't you think in NA he'll be a superstar?
Possibly.
See, I would have thought this would be your wet dream, Monty. This is exactly the sort of player where we always used to use the example. What if the 5th or 6th best Korean team went to NA? Haha, they'd stomp everyone. And, the player who looks just okay in Korea would look like a god there. Surely GBM's the guy who should be like the MVP in that scenario then, if he's got a good team around him.
I mean, perhaps he will be. But I guess I just feel like there's a lot of burden on Alltech.
I feel like that playoffs and then the gauntlet in Korea has just sapped Monty's love of Jin Air completely. Like he's had to give it. Now that he's got KT back, he's given up on Jin Air.
It's just like, look at the gauntlet run. Jin Air did well and they played well as a team, but Jin Air's problem was that they lacked carry threats. That's why, like.
So isn't Altec supposed to be one of the best AD carries? And Impact, in theory, can be a carry player if he wants to be.
I don't know if Impact is really... He's not as big of a carry as the other styles of top laners, right? Even back on SKT, he mostly just played tanks.
I mean, he played tank, but his Jax was good, and he played tanks because he had Piglet. He had Piglet and Faker, so he didn't need to play carry.
He didn't have to carry. That's true.
And then he goes to TIP. He goes to TIP, and then he has Rush and Xiao Wei Xiao, who are gold heavy players, and you can't play a carry top if your jungler is not going to help you a lot. Like you just straight up can't.
Okay,
it's
well,
really
we never. I mean, but your point is that we don't really know how hard Impact can be a carry player because he's never had to do it, which is not a great situation to be in, right? Because you don't know.
Yeah,
that's an unknown factor.
Okay,
but anyway, point is. To go through their roster, maybe Alltech will step up. I think Alltech did a good job of stepping up on Gravity to be really that team's only threat in the last season. I do wonder about I don't really know how good Kangwan is. I wonder what the communication on that team is going to be. And Moon, I don't really know that much about Moon. I mean, I saw him some in the Challenger scene.
They have two English speakers, 2 Korean speakers, and 1 bilingual.
Yeah, that's kind of rough.
So how is Impact going to communicate with Moon?
Great question.
Impact, it's like Impact that's like can't communicate. Like he will say basic stuff, but how much is he going to communicate? Is he going to be communicative? I actually have no idea.
Also, who the fuck is Moon? I don't watch Challenger series, so is he a good player, you think?
I personally never watched Moon games, but from talking to
players on TSM, when I was on TSM, they talked pretty highly of Moon in solo queue. They said he was good, and talking to people on Liquid, they also said Moon is a good solo queue player. So it's just by word of mouth, but he's supposed to be good.
Fair enough. Just seems like in that sort of a team you would want a more veteran jungler. Because I mean, you've already got all these other good players at carry positions. I'm not sure why you would then just get someone who's unproven at the jungle position.
Because one of their owners, Gerard Kelly, he was part of Imagine, and Moon was on Imagine, so he probably thought Moon was good from Imagine.
Okay.
And then it shifted over like that. That makes the most logical sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
So there we go. He imagined that Moon would be a good player, so he brought him over. No problem. There we go. What do you think about pairing Altec with Conquan, Loco? Because obviously he's had good supports. He had Crepo, then he had Bunny Fufu.
I think Altec should have gotten foreign support. I think that was the role where they should have used their foreigner on support, in my opinion.
Instead of mid laner or top?
Yeah. They should have tried super hard for Pobelter. Like, I think Pobelter would have been really good for this team.
You like Pobelter as a player?
Pobelter's like a worse version of GBM.
But this team needs a good support and a okay mid. That's how I feel. I think Pobelter plus foreign support would have been a better version of this team than GBM plus Conquan.
When you say foreign support, what type of support are we talking about?
I guess I didn't think about who they could get.
Like a European, you mean?
I was thinking more in terms of Korean.
Like, is there any Koreans that we're talking, like you would think that would be, just hypothetically?
I think, if Altec has a good Korean support that's experienced and that can lead him, like, it will help develop Altec more instead of, like, now he's working with a challenger player who's less experienced than him, and Altec's really young. Like, asking Altec to lead this player and teach him is going to be harder than having, like, someone that actually knew what to do and that actually knew how to shot call, and then putting that person on this team would have been better. That's my personal opinion. Okay.
In terms of the actual team overall, should this be like a contender to win LCS?
It really depends on how Moon and Conquan does. I don't think like the challenger players will suddenly step up and be LCS caliber. I think GBM plus Moon is gonna have a hard time versus Rush and Incarnation, Bjergsen and Sven. Like, if the meta ever comes down to mid and jungle duo, I think this team will struggle a lot. And the bottom duo also, even though like a lot of NA bottoms got switched around, Sneaky is gonna have a new support regardless of it's High or Bunny. Double if Kasing is a completely new bottom. Afro is gonna play with a new AD for the first time in his life. TL Piglet got a new support. Every bottom lane has gotten switched up somewhat, but I don't think Altec and Conquan will be able to compete with the new bottoms.
So Loco, what do you think of the coaching partnership? Because they've got Charlie, formerly of Cloud9 Analysis fame, as the head coach, and then they've got Hermit, the interim coach of Origin at Worlds, as the strategic coach, and then they've got a separate guy as the analyst and a team of analysts. So what do you think of this coaching structure?
And they also have history teacher as GM. So they have previous three head coaches on the team. Here's a hard thing to judge about coaching. You actually don't know what the fuck is going on unless you're in the team, you live with them, and like you see it. Because like with coaching, it's.
Oh really?
I don't think like.
That's your opinion?
Okay, I know what you're gonna say, but.
Really? Because there seem to be some pretty strong words coming out of the old TSM org in spite of not having that information. But all right.
Okay.
Swear. No one can deny.
Yeah, no one.
Not even open for discussion. Yeah.
All right, I'm not going to step into this argument.
Well, in many ways, you already did irrevocably, but everything can be fixed, Loco. Time has healed all wounds. Let's move on. Yeah.
I mean, at a point, I never thought I would ever go on Sony Insight. I never thought I would ever talk to you or Monte in a friendly way.
We all get desperate eventually. We do things that we have to do just to get by, you know.
Yeah, this is basically me stripping
Yeah.
through college to pay for it, like going back on Summoning Insight.
No, that's too glamorous, Loco. This is more like where you're like a guy who aspires to be a musician and you really believe in your talent and you could make it in your band, but you tell your girlfriend, listen, I'm just going to go to the box factory for the summer. I'm only going to do it as a summer job, okay? But then the money's just good enough that you can afford the beer you need and have like decent, you're paying your electricity, and suddenly a summer turns into a year, turns into 5 years. Suddenly you're the manager of the place, you know. You've got responsibilities, you've got your second kid on the way. You're never going to see that dream, Loco. Throw the tapes away, just put it all in the attic and forget about that.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, we were talking about
Indeed, the coaching
uh, co-
structure.
coaching staff of NRG. It's the one topic I actually didn't touch on my video.
Loco Let's Loose episode 1.
Yeah, NRG. Check it out. Its annotation will be right here. um, Hopefully Charlie matured a lot. I actually think history teacher was a better coach than he got credit for. And Hermit, he could have been the best coach in the world. He could have been the worst coach in the world, but it wouldn't have mattered because Origin was self-functional anyways. I mean, they have a lot of head coaches. It could work out.
I mean, I know for you two guys, that's like an amazing concept. A team that is self-functional, that can just play the game themselves. You two are like, I don't understand. What happens is I tell them what to do, then they don't do what I do, and then we hope in the middle somehow they accidentally win the game. Like, isn't that how a team works, you know?
I don't think this team is going to be a self-functional team. The coaching staff is going to need to do work. They're going to need to be like, okay, this is the part that's not working out. This is what we need to fix.
Also, I wonder about the communication issues, considering none of the coaches speak Korean.
Altic probably knows enough Korean by now. He's been playing with Korean players for like, what, 2 years?
I don't know if he does though, because supposedly, I don't think he supposedly had any Korean basically when he was in EG, etc. So I wonder if he really has any.
This team is a big question mark to me. If the challenger players do well, if the coaching staff is better than what they've shown, then this team will do well. But it is a lot of what ifs. My prediction for how well this team would do, 1 out of 10, 1 being first in LCS, 10 being the relegated team, I would say 5th or 6th with a cap of up to 3rd place. But I would expect them to be 5th or 6th.
Okay.
Really? Considering we don't even know the rosters of a lot of these teams yet?
I mean,
I'd put
we
them a
don't know
little
the
higher.
rest- Really?
Yeah. I'd say 4th or
Okay,
5th.
where was your 4th or 5th? Okay, so we're like 1 place off. What about you, Thorin?
I actually think it might be better than that. I mean, obviously things could go terribly with the support and jungler because they're totally inexperienced. But I'd think like Impact, GBM, and all. I think that's a pretty good base to make a team from with your 3 carries there. So I think they could be like a 3rd, maybe 2nd best team, 2nd or 3rd. I think that's like a reasonable area for Rivian. I think the potential's pretty good in this team actually. I've obviously never seen it play though. But I think the roster's good. And also, generally, I think just as a general philosophy in League, as I think you saw with LGD had a guy who I thought was a dog shit jungler, but LGD was at one point in time the best Chinese team because every lane was good, and so in theory every lane was like almost self-sufficient. So in theory, if you have all good carries, it will cover up if your jungler or support aren't quite as good. You know, you can cover it a little bit. You won't be the best, obviously. The guy who has the best jungler is going to be the best in that regard, but you can cover it a little bit, I think. Okay. So maybe it can work in that sense because according to NA quality, all those players can be competing for the best in their position at the 3 carry roles.
Oh yeah, one thing that we do have to like talk about is we had very bad experiences with new teams coming into the league, like something like MME or something like Fusion. But this team and also Immortals, it's not like any of those teams. They actually have resource. Like they have resources that are comparable to like the top 4 teams in NALCS. So people like. Just in general, when new teams came to NA, like they have done pretty bad.
If only Quantic had gotten into LCS.
Oh my god.
Anyway, it's
they
okay.
did actually get into LCS.
It's okay, Loco.
They ended up being called Cloud.
It's true, they did later. It's okay, Loco. In many ways, you can take solace that you didn't get an LCS then, because that's what allowed you to become a successful coach and win an LCS. So in many ways, Loco, we could call that phase of your career a Quantic of solace. Anyway, and that's the end of that segment, right? Okay, so another team I wanted to talk about. That was Crowbar, didn't? Oh well, you got to do what you got to do, Loco. You know that. So another team that has a different roster is CLG, and we actually still don't know all their roster because we don't know who their AD carry is going to be. But we do know at the moment that they've got Zion, Spartan top lane, Like Smithy jungle, in theory, assuming they keep all these players. Who he's actually going to be the mid lane? Who he? Yeah, he. Who? No, but who is he? Yeah, I said who he. Yeah, you know the skit. Then we go to the spot position, Afromu. The only position we don't know in theory is the AD carry, which is interesting because doesn't IEM start in like one day or something? So what, they have to announce soon who is playing AD carry at this tournament?
I mean, they should. I'm pretty sure like there's a rule in IEM where they don't have to announce to the public, but they have to announce to the teams at least, because like it'd be pretty weird. Like if you're going versus a team and you don't even know who's playing what, especially if the team had a roster's up. That seems unfair. Like that seems like knowledge that you should not. I understand why it can be hidden from the public, but it should be known to the teams.
Especially because you'd think, like when you try to think of available AD carries, there aren't that. See, the sad thing is I actually know behind the scenes who they're going to get in theory, but there aren't actually that many big names that would even be available. So I think people are going to be underwhelmed when they see who the AD carry is for this team.
I think we all know, but thing is, like,
don't you think it's underwhelming then?
If you talk about it, then like it's sort of like if you openly talk about it, oh, this person is going to be underwhelming. Or,
no, I'm just saying it's
a lot of potential.
I'm just saying it's not so like. In the context that they got rid of Doublelift, who's this super famous, very specific type of carry player, to really be like up to that level, it has to be someone either of a similar name or a similar skill level who's proven, and it's not going to be that sort of a person. So in that sense, the team's going to have to be extremely different to work, right?
I would agree a lot more if it was like 2 years ago and CLG was like just protected Doublelift team, but they aren't anymore. Like last two splits, I think they improved a lot. Like they are a well-balanced team with carry threats, at least with Pobelter they were. Like with Pobelter and Zion and Double, they had 3 players that could potentially carry, at least in NA. I'm not sure if Hui will be able to do the same thing, but I actually have a lot of faith in Ziggs, their new head coach, to make the right decision for roster calls. So if Ziggs also agree that Hui is the better fit than Pobelter, I'm going to take his word for it, and I expect Hui to be as good as Pobelter or better. And going back to CLG not being an only Doublelift team now, like with Zion and Hui, like the shoe to fill in terms of name is big. Doublelift was the entire brand of CLG. In terms of name, the shoe the new player has to fill is fucking huge. But in terms of play, I don't think it's as big as the name requires.
How, without knowing for permanently who it's going to be, how do you think CLG will live?
I really just disagree with you. We don't even know what Hui's play looks like.
Yes, we do not know, but I trust in Ziggs, okay? I have no idea how good Hui is in scrims. I have no idea how Hui is, but I trust in Ziggs.
Hashtag trust in Ziggs.
Hashtag faith.
Hashtag faith H2.
I don't know. I think that it's Doublelift because of this. If you just look at statistically the season that Doublelift had last season and the percent of gold share and the percent of damage share that he did on CLG, that is a massive role to fill. He was definitively the hard carry of that team.
Yeah,
and you can say, well, Pobelter was a carry threat. He really wasn't. Until he dumpstered you with Victor in the finals, he wasn't doing much. He didn't get much gold. He didn't get very many resources. And he really was – he was a low economy mid laner.
Pobelter's role in teamfight was very, very definite. Do a lot of AoE damage, do a lot of damage, eat a lot of CC, eat a lot of cooldowns, and let Doublelift and Zion finish up with Yasuo or Jinx or Trist. And then if Zion's going to remain the same, Pobelter's going to – or I guess Pobelter's gone, but potentially and theoretically, Hui should be as good or better than Pobelter. The new AD, he has to be able to clean up. Like he doesn't – that's all he has to do, be able to clean up. And the teamfight form remains the same. The shot calling form remains the same. I
disagree that he just has to be able to clean up. I think it's a disservice to the very good season that Doublelift had in the summer.
I agree. Doublelift was but thing is, people are making it out to be like Doublelift was all of CLG, and then they have that memory from 2 years ago, and they just think of CLG that way. I don't think the shoe is going to be easy to fill, but people are just making it out to be whoever comes along has to be a fucking god mode player.
See, my take on this.
I just think objectively they're just going to be worse.
Being as I knew they're
downgrading at least one position significantly, and we don't even know if Hui's an upgrade. And I don't think if Hui was so much better than Pobelter, so much better, he would already have been playing. That's it.
Okay, the CLG story is Hui's visa wasn't available or wasn't done correctly or whatever. That's why Hui was not able to start, but Hui was supposedly to be the starting mid laner for CLG, and because they were already doing well with Welter and teamwork was developing, they didn't sub in Hui. Like maybe it's PR bullshit, maybe it's the truth, but that was the CLG story.
Okay, well, here's my question then. If they really wanted to do a Faker Easy Hoon substitution situation, that's not an excuse, because otherwise SK Telecom would use that excuse. Oh, we've been working on the teamwork and the synergy, and we don't want to break it up. So I don't understand what they're fucking doing. It doesn't make what they say doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Bearing in mind they're not getting a double of type star AD carry, to me the whole team has to switch up. Like now it has to be, to me, Zion Spartan has to be like a legit carry almost every game in this team. And so that's the big question mark to me, because I've always thought Zion Spartan was never as good as the rep that he somehow built. Like to me, he's the player where if he plays 5 LCS games in a row, he might carry 2. He's not going to carry the 3 or 4 that like a star player does, who's the main carry.
Do you think he'll be a liability in the 3 he doesn't carry? Or do you think he
difference is that's in the past. Like from when I remember when he played in Coast, for example, where again he had to be like a main carry person.
Coast Zion. Well, let me start by saying this: Coast Zion and CLG Zion are completely different players. He got way more responsible with Gold.
Okay, but that's the issue. Is like I don't think he's as like consistent in that sense. And because of this team now lacks the star AD carry, in theory, every other team's going to be knowing you have to shut Zion Spartan down. And that now he's going to get even more ganks top lane, even more pressure on the map. People will just fuck him up, I think. So I think he'll be decent. Listen, I think will happen is CLG will be like a middling team who's like the 5th, well, no, probably like 6th or 7th type team. And what will happen is Zion Spartan will have games he looks good within this context because he'll be one of the few good players on the team and he'll have the odd game where he carries and people will be like, wow, if he was on a better team, what could he do? But I don't think the team itself will be a top team. Okay. So I think they're a playoff team, but that's it. I don't think they have a chance to win the LALCS, put it that way. Obviously, I don't officially know my ADC right now. Yeah.
Can we put definite numbers on how well we think CLG will do? Like same thing we did.
Yeah, I'll say 6th. There we go.
I agree with 6th.
6th?
I think somewhere in the
sounds like Local thinks they're better.
Can this be our Lord bet?
Yeah, it'll make a Lord bet if you want, man. I mean, technically they don't even have the roster, but again, that's never held you back before, so let's go.
We don't have any of the rosters for many of the teams. Yeah.
I mean, for the sake of clarity, I heard who they were gonna get, but I also know like it's the off season, and you can say you're gonna get someone, but depending on performance, like especially at IEM San Jose, or if things don't work out, people can easily change, Like as we said about TSM, like they could change their roster after IEM San Jose, and I think the same could happen with CLG depending on their performance at IEM San Jose.
So what's the Lord bet going to be?
Okay.
What are the conditions of it?
CLG at the end. So when you say what did you guys say, 6th or 7th?
Well, basically 6 just means playoffs, but the first round. There we go. So 5th to 6th. So,
I mean, let's make it 2-parter because we can't just say, okay, they're going to finish the season.
Okay.
Playoff is what matters. Where do you think they will finish at the end of
first round? They will be out in the first round.
Okay. Monty?
I think that's probably pretty fair.
Okay. I would say in season they will probably place 4th or 5th, and I think they'll make it to semifinals and playoffs.
Okay. And this time it has to be reasonable. It's just going to be like the loser just calls the other one the winner. Lord on Twitter in a tweet.
What? Sure. They call each other, or we call. How about just for a month?
Yeah. Okay, a month.
I'm fine for calling you guys a month if I lose. Okay. And then so the bet is if I lose, I call both of you guys, and if I win, both of you guys call me.
This is how much they fucked with his mind, Monty, when CLG finally won an LALCS and beat him in the final. Yeah. Before that, he understood our position. You never bet on CLG. CLG will betray you. Now they don't even have double of dude. I can't believe he's making this bet. It's one of those ridiculous bets he made. But okay, let's go. I'm down.
No, like it's not losing to CLG in finals that made me change my mind about CLG. It's just talking with Jix and spending time with Jix.
Dude, you literally said you have faith in CLG.
Yeah, I mean, I have faith in.
Has history taught us nothing, Loco?
I don't have faith in like the organization as a whole, but like with Ziggs, I expect him to get stuff done, and I expect his decision to be correct. Okay. That's where my faith goes, and then because he's in a head coach position, like that's why like I'm making a risky bet on CLG.
And by the way, if CLG does bomb, I'll add an extra juicy little morsel on here, Loco. So
Okay.
if CLG does finish where I said they're going to, just go out in the first round of the playoffs, after they won last split, what a drop-off that will be, I will actually reveal who they could have got for that position, who would have been a massive signing. So I'll add that in as a little teaser for everyone. So now, much like now all you fans have to hope they fail. By the way, that's not much of a hope at CLG. It's pretty much guaranteed. So just get ready, guys. As soon as the playoffs start, there we go. You get all that good shit. So after CLG, we come to a big name, Cloud9. Now, Cloud9 have added Rush, and then they've added Bunny Fufu, but what's weird is they even announced it that he's a sub. They said that they're going to do like a rotating roster, but he even said in his own video that he's the substitute support. So it's not even like, it sounds like it's not even directly straight up like we're going to do half and half. It sounds like they're going to start out with High and then put him in sometimes. What do you think about... Yeah.
They're probably worried about High playing support. This is going to be his second role swap and the third role he's going to play.
Yep.
Actually, it's going to be his fourth role swap because he started with jungle, then went to mid, back to jungle, and then now he's playing support.
True.
So they're probably worried, can High adapt, or does High... Like, it seemed High retired because he did not want to play, and there was also problems on the team.
Yep.
But bringing someone back in from retirement because you really, really needed them, and then now asking them to play another split, I think what Cloud9 did was pretty smart. Like, there's a big chance that High might like lose all motivation and be like, I don't want to play.
Okay. So what do you think about them adding Rush initially, Loco?
Adding Rush. I mean, it feels sort of back like C9 is the team where the jungler gets to be the superstar. Like, that's a pretty rare team. Junglers usually don't get to be the superstar, and they shifted a lot away from that in season 4 with Sneaky being more and more superstar-y, more and more goldish, more and more team fight around Sneaky, more and more let's build our comp around Sneaky. Like, fucking Morgana Lulu comp is like Sneaky carry us, and then Incarnation also stepped up. His Azure got really good, his control mages got really good. So if it was like C9 from before, Rush would be like a really, really good fit, but now I think they have enough carries. And then it's like the TSM scenario where you have two really good carry players in Sneaky and Incarnation, and then your top has to be low econ. So like now it's up to Rush again. Like, I think C9 and TSM are in very similar situations.
You don't think Balls is a good top liner?
Oh my god.
No.
I think Balls dropped off like severely.
I think
Like,
he was
Balls
bad
dropping-
I think he was bad all of last year. I thought after Worlds last year, he suddenly just, the skill vampires came in the middle of the night, sucked all his skill out. Because at IEM, he was not playing well, IEM San Jose last year. And then I just feel like he just hasn't been up to that standard that we saw ever since Worlds in 2014.
Because Balls is a curious case, because C9 actually used to be pretty top
The
oriented.
Curious Case of Balls and the Skill Vampires, starring young Loco.
No, why would it star me? It would star the skill.
No, because
vampire.
you're the detective in the story. That's the sort of title, isn't it? You're the detective solving the case.
Alright, let me present the case.
Okay.
C9 used to be a top-oriented team, actually, with Meteos ganking top a lot and Meteos snowballing top a lot, and Balls using the gold lead he had to fucking demolish people in teamfights with Rumble most of the time. And then, for some reason, Balls started to decline, and also meta started to be more 2v1 oriented, and it happened at like similar times, and then Sneaky just became more and more in center forward of the team. And then, like, it was so gradual, but it continuously happened. So one day you wake up, like, say you left League of Legends for 1 year, and then you wake up, and then suddenly, like, the role completely changed, where Balls is low econ and Sneaky is high econ, and Balls is the utility and Sneaky is like the damage carry. Like, it used to be Sneaky is the utility. Sneaky played Varus, Sneaky played Ashe. Like, Sneaky was the utility carry and Balls was the high damage carry, and then the roles completely flopped. So, I mean, that's why I think it's a curious case. And then Sneaky also got better and Balls got worse. So, I guess it's not even a curious case. It's pretty obvious what happened, but it's like a big point of what happened to C9 in the last few years that a lot of people miss. They're just like, Balls got worse, and that's it.
So what were we actually talking about when it cut out there?
You guys were talking about C9,
Oh yeah, that's
but
right.
I didn't hear what you said. So
Loco was talking about, was it actually the Rush move we were talking about, or was it on to high
No,
already?
It was Balls and Sneaky.
Oh,
like,
Balls.
them
That's it. Yeah.
Balls and Sneaky swapping places.
Okay. So they swapped places. You gave that rundown. Okay. So what do you think the impact? Like, for example, does this make Rush's life way harder now he has Balls, or does he just forget about Balls, just gank Incarnation and Sneaky and get them to snowball the whole game?
He has to find, like, it's
I hope you guys don't consider it a cop-out answer, but he has to find a good balance between snowballing his 2 carries and making sure Balls doesn't get shit on by carry tops getting help from junglers.
Oh, I've just remembered what it was that I was going to ask you. The question I was going to ask was, obviously Balls has like a deeper personal connection to the org than a lot of players in LCS do, because he was there for so long. They had all the good times with him, and in theory he's played with a bunch of those players and teams, so they might want to keep him. But if you just look at his level now, don't you find it kind of shocking that they would keep him in the team for Season 6?
Yeah, I mean, if they looked, they probably could have found someone better. But
I mean, when you consider they're using one of the NA slots for support anyway, so they could have got another foreigner for top as well.
No, they can't because they have Incarnation and they got rushed. They don't have any more
Oh,
foreigners.
you're right. Yeah. Oh well, I'm sure they could have got someone decent though.
There's like one thing that orgs are scared of when they make big roster changes is, what if you make too many changes and then like it's now we're taking way too many risks and there's way too many what ifs. That is like a legitimate concern orgs have. Like, you might laugh, but it is a legitimate concern. So that's part of the reason why sometimes people keep players when they shouldn't. They're like, okay, we're making 2 changes here and we're also making a change here. We're making up to 3 changes. We don't want to make another change here.
So what do you think?
I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised to hear that is true.
I mean, so one thing they could have done was find the sub top like they did
I think
for
that
jungle.
I think this is an interesting lineup, to be sure. I'm extremely skeptical of how many champions Hai is going to be able to play from the support position and how well he's going to do there, but at least they have some sort of backup in Bunny Fufu. I'm skeptical about Balls' performance, but I think that having Sneaky and Incarnation and Rush together is very good. And I think that Rush is a nice fit for this team and that he's going to have a lot of opportunities. Like, Rush will be able to play his style in this team, which is cool. And that's what we want, obviously. So I think, I don't know. I think that they're going to do pretty well, probably maybe like 3rd or 4th-ish place.
That's a pretty bold prediction.
No, I think that their core of Rush and Incarnation and Sneaky is going to be pretty good.
Isn't this a very, like I said it earlier, then I didn't get a reply from you guys. Isn't this a very similar like style of team with the new TSM roster?
They're different. Here's the key thing that's weird for me in this lineup is in the games you put Bunny Fufu in, yeah, he's a better support player, but then you're going to have limited shot calling, like okay shot calling. When you have Hai in, I think it's ridiculous to suggest Hai is going to be a good support. I have to see that before I can say he's going to change roles 3 times and be good. So I'm going to assume he's not going to be a good support, but he might have really good shot calling. So I think what's weird is whichever one you do, you're going to give something up. So I'm not that super confident. I think they'll be decent. I think this is more like a 4th, 5th type team.
I think it's
All right, I think that's fair.
I think super dependent on jungle, as I said, with TSM also. Like, if the jungle manages his resources well, can snowball the 2 carries that needs to, and make sure the top isn't getting shit on by resource-heavy tops, then this team will do really well. And I agree with Monty on the 3rd and 4th, maybe even 2nd, or even winner if Ball steps up. Like, that is the big what if. For them to jump from like 3rd to 2nd to 1st, Ball is going to have to improve and be a really, really good low econ player with everything else functioning. I mean, so there is what ifs, a lot of what ifs on this team, and it has a high range of where they can place.
Like, to me, the best part of the team is that all the question marks is like it's Balls or it's how High will do in bot lane. But if Rush and Incarnation are just both really good, that jungle mid could be super good for sure.
Yeah,
That could be a really
they'll
good
destroy
choice.
teams with weak jungle mids if those 2 can function well.
So that's the main thing they have to have going before they can even start discussing if they're going to be like a top team for me. Okay, so another team. Okay, so let's talk about Dignitas actually, because they actually announced their whole roster. So, tell you what, Monty, talk about underwhelming announcements.
I don't know who the fuck Smitty, J, or Curé are.
Here's the great thing, Monty.
Clue.
Here's the genius thing. So, Dignitas got 2 teams, and there was this big question, who will they pick to sell? And so they had an EU team that everyone was highly touting, saying this team could be dangerous. Instead, they kept the NA team, signed a bunch of people, including some that were just from Europe but aren't famous players. Then they got Apollo from Tip fame. They just like clean up AD carry. And then they re-signed the stars of the team, Shifter and Kiwi Kid. I think I actually had the best comment on this just in my tweet, Monty, where all I did is I just quoted the Albert Einstein quote that says, insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different result. And then all I did is just put a picture below of Shifter and a picture of Kiwi Kid, and that's it. That was the
I do agree, like, from the gameplay level, it made more sense to keep the European, but from it is an org, it is a business. Sure. NA teams get more sponsorships, NA teams get more exposure. It is, if the price for selling, like, say the price for selling the NA team was $10 and the EU team was $10, if the price range was similar, it makes sense from a business perspective, from a sponsorship perspective, to sell the European and keep the NA.
Like, it seems like a massive gamble getting these two challenger players at once and bringing them into NA where they've never played before and hoping they work on the team. And not only that, what's the base that you kept in the team? Okay, Shifter to this day still has decent skills, but his style is never going to change. We've learned that. And then Kiwi Kid is just trash.
Okay, I mean, I guess we're going to talk about cons of this team a lot. Shifter, for some reason, his CSing never improved. I don't know why. I don't know how. He played for so long, but his CSing, like, he misses a lot of CS for a pro player, and it's something, like, really weird, because CSing is something you do every game. Like, it's not a hard aspect to improve on. Okay. You can improve on CS by yourself, like, just by fucking CSing, and that's one aspect he never really improved on. And also, I mean, Kiwi Kid is, like, their legacy player. Like, oh my god, it seems...
Move to your right a bit, Monty. Keep talking, Loco.
It seems a bit, like, weird to say, but, like, Kiwi Kid is basically their mad life. Like, he is
Jesus
their, like,
Christ.
He is their mascot.
Why? Why, Loco? Why?
I'm sure you're smart enough to understand what I mean by in terms of image.
No, actually, the problem is when I'm dealing with TSM people, I'm usually used to them being incapable of interpreting metaphors, and they just interpret everything literally. So I'm sorry I had to interpret that entirely. You just literally said that the Kiwi Kid is mad life. You could have picked any player in the world, and you picked mad. Therefore, you're saying he is. I am a TSM fan. Anyway, continue on with your point.
Okay. And so, I mean, I see the merits. Maybe Kiwi Kid the shot call. And it goes back to the old point. We need to keep some old faces on the team to keep our fan base, and Kiwi Kid is lovable.
He is that, isn't he? He's got a lot. What I love about him, one thing I've always loved about him, and this, by the way, Loco, is the story of how I got blacklisted from Dignitas, is that I once wrote an article, and the topic of the article was about how I thought some of the NA players in certain teams didn't necessarily care in the spring split whether they won or not, because they just thought, right, stay in LCS, and then the summer split used to, in the old model, be when you had to try and qualify for Worlds. So my logic was certain teams who knew they were never going to win LCS, who were just like middle tier, would just kind of fuck around and just hope you avoid relegation and get into summer okay. It was quite a commonly held belief at the time in terms of like spring split didn't matter that much. But because I was thinking to myself, like, what photo am I going to use for it? Because it's not actually about any specific players, but I'm just going to use a generic LCS photo. So I went on the LoL Esports album on Flickr, and when I was looking on there, I found a picture that was just so perfect for this exact topic. Because remember, the topic is the idea that losing's not that big a deal in the spring split. So there was a picture of Kiwi Kid, and in the background, it said in massive letters, you know when you lose the game and it just shows on the projector behind you? It said defeat in massive letters. And Kiwi Kid had a huge smile on his face, like, heh, I just lost the game. And so I put that picture up, and then Odie just got super mad. He was like, how can you imply that my players don't even care about winning? You think they don't care about winning the spring split, man? By the way, Dignitas went out 5-6 that split. Enough about that anyway. But yeah, anyway, so we got blacklisted temporarily. But we got unblacklisted in the end. All that matters is that blacklists get removed and that we all continue on doing the same things we always did. Much like Dignitas. See, I tied it all back together there. What do you actually think about Kiwi as a player, though?
As a player?
Yeah.
There was time where, like, on TSM, like, we made jokes about Kiwi being, like, a roam god, because he would just roam for no reason, and, like, we was like, holy shit, roam god's gonna carry the game. There were actual times where he actually wasn't roam god, and his roaming, like, straight up carried the game for him. Very inconsistent, level of play, pretty low. I do actually really like him as a person. We're from the same city, Austin, we also both play Magic, so Kiwi, I'm sorry I say mean things. I like you as a person, but as a player...
See the level of basic requirements you need to be Loco's friend. Come from the same city, play a collectible card game. Okay, well, we're just getting some insights here.
As a player, I have nothing bad to say about him as a person. I have
As a
nothing
person,
bad to say.
yeah.
Nothing
As a
bad to say
player,
about her.
the less said the better. Sure.
As a player, I will not say anything.
I think we just need to rename this entire show to Loco's caveats of other people. Just why do you bring in all the irrelevant shit that doesn't matter to the conversation and then just try and soften the blow?
He's like, listen, this one time, guys, my opinion on Kiwi Kid is that, one time in the winter, he found this fox that had a broken leg, and he took it into his house and put it in his bed, and he fed it milk, and he nursed it back to health.
You guys call it irrelevant stuff, but I do think, snippets about players do help personalize them more and be them more as people.
It's interesting.
Okay, well, that's the job, Locodoco, of Riot's features team. They actually have like a bunch of producers at Riot. That's actually literally their job. It's literally their job. That's all they do.
It is literally their job, but they don't interact with players as much as other players or people in the scene does, because they only interact with them on LCS basis, so they can't always give out the full stories or little details that they miss, because they're not with them all day, or they don't interact them with as much as other players or people in the scene does.
Okay. Good story anyway. Cool story, bro. Cool story, Loco. That's the new meme. Bro. Cool story, Loco. That's the new meme.
If you're going to do this, then we need you to start going into Esportspedia, and you're going to start editing their player profiles, and we'll get little bullet points like Kiwi Kid is from Austin, Texas, and Kiwi Kid plays Magic the Gathering.
Great. I actually been using Leaguepedia and Esportpedia for research, and their bullet points for the unpopular players are terrible. They don't list information. They only list information about popular players and popular teams.
You know why that is, Loco?
Because people only go on sites with popular players.
Because no one gives a fuck about Kiwi Kid. Exactly. You got to it in the end. No one gives a flying fuck about Kiwi Kid.
Okay, moving on. Who are these European players? I've never heard of them.
Apparently, one was in Davis 2, one was in Denial. So they're not even good European teams. So there's that for a start off.
Oh man, it clicked. I didn't click for 1 second, but when you said he was in Denial, I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And then
I know. You thought, wait a minute, you mean like me with TSM, where I've still got those unresolved feelings that are locked away, and you'll need deep, what's it called, regression therapy when you're in hypnosis, and oh my god, wait, they actually did all that shit to me, fuck, and I was in a cult where they made me believe shit, oh my god, what was I doing? And then you'll finally, 2 years from now, you'll write your book called, instead of going clear, it'd have to be something similar than that, like getting mature with Loco, how I escaped the prison compound of TSM and became my own man. Okay. Anyway, it's a safe place here, Loco. As soon as you feel comfortable.
What do you think about their coaching staff? Dignitas, Broken Shard, and Inner Flame?
Here's the problem. As far as I know, Inner Flame's never been a coach. He's just the manager before, so he was involved more with recruiting and stuff.
Broken Shard tweeted, Inner Flame will be more than just a head coach, or more than just a general manager. He's been a head coach before. It would be a terrible waste of his skills or something. Let me find the actual tweet so I don't misquote him. But he's, from apparently what's been said, he will be more than just I
mean, that seems a little bit wild. The thing with Broken Shard is, I actually do credit Broken Shard. I think he has decent game knowledge. For me, I never thought Broken Shard was a good player. So the whole reason I thought he managed to get all these teams into LCS and not be a complete trash can in all the games is because he had decent game knowledge. So he did have some sense of what lower level players should do. And since his team's full of lower level players, maybe he can whip them into shape. But I don't think they're going to be a good team. Put it this way, I'm going to go ahead and bet this team finishes, there's only 10 spots in the league, so I'll take 9th place. Fuck it, maybe 10th place. There we go. That's where I'm seeing them at, Loco.
Hey, I said that last time about Dig too, and they actually did better than expected. That
was good though, Monte.
I think they're going to do the 8th to 9th range. Because here's the thing: when we talk about 10th place teams, Thorin, we have to consider the fact that both Impulse and Gravity are trying to sell themselves right now, and these are teams that don't have rosters. And by the time that somebody buys, if indeed anybody buys these teams, there may not be any reasonable players left to even put on these rosters, right? How much talent is left that isn't already contracted? It's not a lot.
I started playing solo queue. I recently got pretty high up in Diamond 5.
That's all I needed to know. Right, yeah, they're fucked. In that case, Dignitas for the playoffs. No, Dignitas is not making the playoffs no matter what. Whether they're 10th is irrelevant, but they're not making top 6.
Here's what we know that's been announced, right? Right, Thorin? Gravity is for sale.
Yep.
Who is on Gravity right now? It's Move and Keen. We know where Altec Hanser and who's his what's it? Bunny.
I'll take
Gone.
Hotzer and Bunny.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cop
Yeah.
might play. Who knows?
All right. Okay, so there's a team. And we also know that the 19-year-old owner of that team, wow, got bored of his shiny toy and is now selling it, and they don't have any support from their ownership anymore. So they're fucked. Impulse, well, we know where Impact's gone, Russia's gone, Gate, I guess, is gone too.
They lost their
So-
star player to Dignitas, Apollo.
So yeah, Apollo and Adrian are probably going to go to
Was that
different teams.
sarcasm there, Loco? Was it your attempt at sarcasm?
Maybe not.
Okay, I see how it is. Yeah. See, okay.
I'm making a point is that both of these teams are for sale, and ostensibly no one's bought them.
But here's
yet.
the thing,
And here's the
Monty.
thing about-
Yeah.
No,
You have-
listen.
Okay.
So Riot has to approve the owners when they sell a team, which means that this process actually takes some time. So by the time these teams actually get approved from their owners and the transaction is done, who is going to be left for because they have to have 3 NA players on each of these teams. So they're either going to start pulling challenger players or something. So even as bad as Dignitas may appear, or as unknown with these new players that we've never even seen play or
So
heard of,
you're basically saying there's the floor for being bad might be even lower than what we think it is.
absolutely think about it, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean that is a good point. Like 9 and 10 team, but whoever buys these teams, like LCS spots are a lot more expensive than what they used to be, and whoever buys them is gonna come in with resources, and they're gonna come in with like ambition and drive. Like they're not. I think there will be very little like, oh, let's do it as a hobby teams now.
Here's the thing, Monty. It goes the other way, though. One of these trash teams that has no players also might have Huni and Reignover.
It's possible.
Oh my! Can we talk about Huni roll swap? I think that is like such a bad career choice in my opinion.
I don't think he's actually going to do that.
Okay. Thank God. Like Huni is talented. Huni had his flaws, but his flaws aligned with. If he rolls up to AD, I think he would have had an incredibly hard time.
Even forgetting role swapping, though.
Okay,
Don't you think
okay,
going to
okay,
a new
okay,
team is
okay.
going to be
Well,
super
no.
dangerous for him as well?
Going to what?
Possibly.
Going to a new team.
I don't know why he would leave Fnatic. I think he and Reignover should stay, but
Maybe. Like it's something that a lot of people forget, but these are people and they do get homesick. I guess moving to NA. Never mind. It actually has no correlation because they're moving to NA, not back to Korea. Never mind.
It's true, but with enough money,
I mean
you might
that's
feel like
the
you have a
rumor.
family.
But that's the rumor, and also we don't know where these players are going. And if Huni and first off, Immortals doesn't have a roster yet. They could easily go to Immortals. They could easily go to Gravity if it's been sold already, or Tip if it's been sold already. But you still need 3. See, Loco, yes, you're right. These people will come in with money, but you have to have 3 NA players on these teams.
We don't know where Adrian goes.
You have to.
I mean, if the person that's buying the tip spot, couldn't they potentially keep Adrian if he's still under contract?
Okay, let's pretend there's a best possible scenario.
Okay,
Best possible scenario.
Okay,
Okay, so the best scenario is like if you just think about it. Okay, so one team gets Reignover and Huni, or gets Huni and Dexter, who declared NA, and then maybe they get Adrian and Turtle. That's like best.
that's better than Dignitas.
Yeah, but one team has to get all of that.
Okay, so one team gets Huni Reignover, the other team gets Dexter, so they're both building off something. The Huni Reignover side gets Adrian, and then they get Turtle, Adrian Turtle, and then they find a challenger mid laner. That's already better than
Gate. There we go.
Dignitas.
Boom. We got him.
We don't know that. I don't know how good these players that the Dignitas picked up are. I don't think it's necessarily better.
Okay, we don't. Okay, let's teach. Barring these two players,
So here's what we don't know. Here's to flesh all of this out. We have 2 teams that currently don't have rosters that are for sale. Rosters that we know of. We have Immortals, who doesn't have a full roster announced yet, right?
Yeah.
Every time he pauses, I get so scared he's just lagged out again. Keep going.
So there are 3 teams here that are all looking for players. They have to have 15 players between them.
Yeah. They would have to have 9 NA players between them.
Yeah, that's a lot of NA players. Can you even name 9 NA players that are free agents right now
That are good.
that are good enough to be in the LCS where you don't just get dumpstered?
I mean,
Turtle.
none that have 9.5 level mechanics, obviously. There's only a few special, once in a lifetime cyber athletes who have those levels of mechanics, Monty, you know.
Okay. Turtle, Centauran.
Centaur's not NA, is he?
Did he declare EU? I actually have no idea.
Is he allowed to declare NA?
Yeah,
don't
why
think-
not? He's an exempt foreigner. Every exempt foreigner gets to declare NA.
He was
or
an exempt foreigner?
That's why
Yeah,
he
he was
got
an
in
exempt
from
foreigner.
Coast, if you remember.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. That's true.
Centauran, Turtle.
That's the only reason they actually picked him up, Monty. Not any of this bullshit about having 9.5 mechanics and the potential.
So-
It's like he was the only option, you know.
Basically, you got to pick through the bones in TSM's graveyard.
Okay. Centauran, Turtle, Adrian. That's 3. I need to name 6.
What if one of them comes with a super sick offer for Locodoco as a coach? He paused for a second. He didn't immediately say no. He paused.
Here's the thing about me coaching. I
Okay.
actually think I can be a good coach if I have a year or 2 of maturing and like learning about coaching. And like right now, I don't want to coach because I really do like content making, and I think there's a space for it, and I want to be good at it. But like even on Liquid, like I see some things like I could help with, and I'm like, no, I'm a content creator. Don't jump into that. Like, don't fall back into the addiction. So I
The
mean,
coaching addiction. Yeah, I'm gonna mainline some of that coaching right now.
He's got withdrawals,
Oh,
mate.
yeah.
He's got some
yeah,
sick
so
withdrawals.
I do have withdrawals because for 2 years, like it was a big part of my life. So like when I see people doing it in front of me, like I do want to join in. Like I'm not gonna lie about that.
He's even got the problem where he's like when they've gone sober, that you can't drink around me, man. It'll make me relapse.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
people are
If
coaching around me. Oh my god, I feel
someone
the siren
if
call
some-
of coaching.
If someone quits smoking around them, it's like so BM. Like it's like
Okay.
it's tempting. Like and like I'm not saying TL's being BM to me. Like if we're working close by each other because of logistic, and then it's my problem. You know, I just have to be straight with it and be like, no, that's not what I came here to do.
I know I have the same problem because a few years ago, to be intellectually honest, I tried to quit sucking Korean dick, but then Monty just keeps doing it all the time around me, and it draws me back into it. And I'm like, wait a minute, should I really say that Easy Hoon's better than every player in the West? Should I do that or not, Monty? Like, yeah, let's do it. Just go ahead and do it. Everyone's better than Pawn and whoever else. Right, okay, so let's wrap this up. So I think we've done every team, haven't we? Every team that's announced so far. Now, okay, as a final topic, just some basic thoughts on IEM, since that will obviously happen like immediately. So the big issue with IEM is it's TSM versus LGD in the first round. Winner of that plays Origin, and Origin Odyssey has signed Power of Evil. Potentially, I can't remember if they said Power of Evil is going to play at IEM San Jose or not. Do you know, Monty?
I think they said, what is it in their announcement, that for IEM San Jose, Power of Evil will be exclusive.
He will
Because
play only him. They won't be Expeke.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the one side of the bracket. The other side is CLG versus Unicorns of Love. And Jesus, did you see that Unicorns of Love lineup? Fuck me. We have to talk about that. So the Unicorns of Love lineup for San Jose is Vivisachi, Gilius, Fox, Steelback, Hillisang. So what they did is get rid of their superstar mid laner. And obviously they lost Kikis ages ago and got good old Gilius. And that's the lineup they have there. So what do you think of that Unicorns of Love lineup, Monty? Now is your chance.
Oh
Now they're at their
my God.
weakest. Now you do kick them while they're down.
Yes, they're terrible. That's not a good lineup. Losing Power of Evil was a huge blow to the team, and like I don't see really how Steelback is in any way enough of an upgrade on Vardags to actually make the difference up, like the slack up for losing Power of Evil, who was their best player by a significant margin. I think this lineup is a stinker.
Loco.
I think,
Yeah? Okay, go on, tell me.
well, at least they won't be a chaos-style team anymore, right? Without Power of Evil and Kiki.
In
Like,
theory.
at least they'll be like a standard team, right? All these
Who
players.
knows?
I just got so excited when I looked on Esportspedia, Monty, because I clicked on the rosters. You know when they list the rosters for an event? Can you confirm this, Loco? On LGD, when I click show roster, it shows Flame as the top laner. Would that actually be better, Loco? I mean, obviously Akon had a bad Worlds, but Akon's a fantastic player aside from Worlds, right?
Don't they suffer from the OMG problem of having 3 hard carries?
Well, at Worlds, they didn't suffer from the problem of having God V be a carry, so I guess they only had 2 at that point. But you could hypothetically be right, but God V was kind of trash, right?
I mean, on a serious note, if they have a weak jungler whose champion pool is submitted and they have 3 hard carries who play very hard carry like all three players like take risk in lane, and they like having the jungle backup to be able to dive the other person or have their risk pay off. Isn't that like naturally a bad fit? 3 hard carries and a mediocre jungler?
It can be, but during most of the LPL split, actually, Flame, aside from Worlds, was playing all the supportive champions. He was playing like
I mean, Flame at his
Rumble.
heart. Flame at his heart is a carry champion player, though. He's playing
Sure.
support champion or a tank champion, then he's doing it for the team. But that's if
Did
he
you
has
see
complete
that
choice.
video, Loco, where all the team, it was like exclusive behind the scenes footage of LGD when they lost at Worlds, and all the players were sat there, like, even Imp was almost crying, like, I'm sorry, I let you guys down, I feel, and then PYL was just full, like, tears streaming down his face, like, I should have been a better captain. He said it all in Chinese. That's Chinese in my version. And then God V was just looking at the ground like, I am a human piece of trash. And then it cut over to Flame, and Flame had a massive smile on his face. And he was like, I'm sorry, I tried too hard to win. It was wicked. I loved it. I thought it was great. That was a great little heartfelt moment. But he didn't look like he gave a fuck, mate. He was like, oh, is this why I'm supposed to say I'm sorry? Yes, I totally mean all that. It's like, great. Because you have to realise he would have never got to play if their team hadn't gone and completed his shit. So he was like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry that the team did so badly in those first 3 games. Go team. LGD on 3. What do you think, Monty? General thoughts on this event? I
don't really. What's interesting about this is I think LGD will have prepared better coming into this one, so I have some confidence in them, especially with TSM fielding this brand new roster. Just because I think TSM will lose to LGD in the first round, but I just think it'll be a lack of synergy. I don't think you should read too much into the results of this tournament, especially like the new
I definitely
rosters.
won't. I promise I won't, Monty. If Flame destroys TSM, I won't do any tweets. I won't get out of pocket. I won't go ham or anything. You know I won't do these things, Monty. I would never do something like that.
I just think it's dangerous to draw too many conclusions from this particular event, especially since all the solo queuing the players have been doing is on a drastically different patch, and there's a lot of factors.
Okay.
I think LGD probably has a very good chance of taking this tournament, obviously, especially like with Fnatic dropping out and the other team being Unicorns of Love and CLG. Jin Air also. We did see Jin Air in the Kespa Cup, but they weren't using Chaser at the time.
Yeah.
So...
And Origin, top 4 team at World's Origin, but with an upgrade at mid.
Yeah, but again, a different team, different synergy. Jin Air is the same boat. They have Chaser. They have So-Won now that they're probably going to use instead of Trace. But I don't know what lineup Jin Air was actually going to run with.
And they have Kuzan.
Isn't the floor and the ceiling for Jin Air like way apart depending on what players they use?
I think Kuzan actually had some pretty good games. He's a very different style, very roam heavy. He's like the exact opposite of GBM. It's kind of weird. But I think his style will work better with Chaser overall. In the long run, and So-Won's like a Riven player. He's super different than Trace too. So the Jin Air is going to be a team that has to go through some pretty significant style changes because Trace and GBM are very different than So-Won and Kuzan. Now,
So-Won used to be a one-trick pony. His name used to be Exile, and then he only played Riven.
Yeah, I mean he's been playing Riven recently, but it seems like from what I saw from the picks and the Kespa Cup that he's got some other stuff under his belt, and I've looked at his solo queue account a lot in the past. So I don't know how Jin Air is going to do. They've got a lot of adjustments to make.
I think their floor and ceiling will be very, very different depending on what players.
Yeah, they've got a lot of new players, so we'll see.
Yeah, the way this event goes, I think LGD wins the event.
Yeah, probably.
Jin Air Green Wings. Who knows? Maybe they can be exciting or something. Maybe the lineup's decent, but I can't see how you can expect that. Probably the one wild card to me is actually TSM. Maybe the TSM lineup has some super sick natural chemistry and does really well. But the problem is they have to play LGD in the first match. If they were playing on the other side of the bracket, they've got more room. They have to basically be good from game 1 almost. And then
doesn't that benefit TSM more than LGD because this is a complete new roster. They can't do research on TSM, you know.
But what I meant was you can't sort of power up. They have to basically be good from like the first game onwards.
TSM can't do research on TSM. They've had like 4 days to practice or some shit like that.
He means on LGD, but yeah.
Okay. Well, no, he means TSM, right?
Yeah, but it means that they haven't had much time to practice themselves. It's not like they can apply the practice. You can do research, but you can't apply it, can you?
Okay, so let's just talk about this real quick, Loco. You're not on the team anymore. Is
Yeah.
Parth on the team anymore?
Parth is still on the team.
Okay, so they have one person who actually, and he's dealing with an entirely new group of players. So they changed their coaching staff. They changed all their players. So you really think they're going to have time to do some pretty sick research on LGD? I don't think so.
I think LGD won't change much from Worlds, and then the extent.
What?
Like
The meta's changed a whole ton.
what is it?
521 is very different.
The Juggernauts got nerfed, and then but LGD like as a core, like their biggest weakness comes from TBQ not being able to play anything else other than Lee Sin, and then the jungle pool still remains the same, and I don't think that weakness is gonna like suddenly cover itself up.
The jungle pool is different, and also Gragas is back, and Kindred is there.
But he was terrible at Gragas. Like he could only really function as a player as Lee Sin.
I agree
See,
with
I
you.
feel like you're all missing the key storyline, which isn't actually Flame just kicking the shit out of TSM. That's obviously my storyline. The key storyline is we might get to see Imp body bag double lift. You know how glorious that will be? I don't care for new lineups. That will be fucking glorious. Dude, I don't know if you saw this, Monty, because it kind of went under the radar, because I actually like double lift, so I didn't make too big a deal out of it. But when Worlds was just about to start, Doublelift posted some picture of some sort of weird device. I don't even know what it was. It looked like some sort of sex device, Monty. It was like a device that was like long with like a holder, and it had some sort of like applicator thing at the top. And so he just I think it was something simple, like some like if you have an injured knee or something, I don't know, something like that. And I just as a joke said, is that to stretch out your butthole to help for easier insertion from Prey or something? And Doublelift joked like that, yeah, it was or whatever. But that did happen. Prey got in that ass both times. That's literally what happened. It's going to be worse with Imp, mate. He's not even going to use a device. He's just going in. He's going in dry with that impish little grin. And sadly, the one thing we do know is that Doublelift is incapable of actually crying. So we know that sadly he won't cry when he gets wrecked by Imp. He'll just look really awkward and then look at the ground a lot. That's the way he cries. That's his version of crying. So
Okay.
I actually prefer the tier ductless double lift
good, isn't
to
it?
some of the like reckless deft games.
Really, I like seeing emotions from players. I think it's pretty.
you liked seeing it when Reckless was just crying his eyes out and they kept like patting him on the back and handing him tissues.
I'm not like holy.
Oh,
fuck,
lost again!
This is the greatest thing ever. But I'm like holy fuck, like Reckles actually really cared and like people are really fucking invested in this.
Okay.
Like I don't like it, but like I like the fact like there are some people that really fucking care.
Listen, a soldier dies but one death, a coward dies 1,000. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. That's probably the PM thing I've ever said. Get wrecked, Reckless. I don't give a fuck. Also, by the way, that news story, we're not going to go into it much more, but that news story that Yellow Star might retire is like porn to me. If Yellow Star retires and good old Reckless is out there, no Hoonie, no
Oh, yeah,
Yellow
you
Star,
hate
and
Reckless
he just
too.
has to go out there by himself as a carry player. No, I just think he's mega overrated carry player. Then let's see how he does. That'll be the boys' chance on stage to show us what a super duper player he is. So it'll be good. Do you have any final thoughts, Loco? Who's going to win IM?
I am. LGD, TSM, or Origin. LGD 50%.
Just half the field, okay? Yeah.
LGD 50%, Origin 30, TSM say 19, and then the 1% goes to the other. Oh, actually, Jinair too. Fuck. Okay, if I had to pick a favorite, LGD, and then outside of LGD, I think it would be Origin, not Jinair, because I just feel like Jinair will use their sub players, and it's an international tournament.
Okay.
So I think it would be LGD or Origin, and then Dark Horse. If I had to pick favorites, LGD, Origin, and Dark Horse, TSM.
Okay, now that you've come on your return episode, Loco, you've completed the trilogy. All good things come in threes, as everyone who's watched this show knows. We'll give you the final words. What are the final words for this episode, Loco?
I mean, final words. I actually really enjoyed being on the episode. It was long as hell. I usually don't like doing content like this long, but it was pretty fun talking to you guys. A lot of people are gonna say I was biased as shit about TSM players, or like I was neutral, or I was trying to be too PR friendly. But I do feel like these players don't often get to say like their piece or their side of the story, and I do want to tell a piece of it. And yeah, I really enjoyed being on the show, and I'm really glad you, me, and Monty are friends again. Like I genuinely enjoyed me and Monty's friendship. I can't say the same for you, but I really truly do respect your work.
You know what, Loco? I think we'll just end it with, at least on camera, we're all friends. And that's where it all matters in esports, mate. It's all about what we do on camera. So that's the end. Thanks to Alpha Draft.